heights room, so there's room for heights.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So before we reach here, right?
Mm.
Faraaz, he wanted a pickup.
Right.
Say no problem.
Not like a pickup truck, no, but
Yeah.
I wanted someone to pick me up.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you want to pick up?
Exactly.
He don't want me to
Yeah,
pick him up,
sure.
take him on a date or something.
Yeah,
You want to- you know. So on my way to pick him up, he say, "Here we're going on," and up in a little scene. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go on free day.
Go on.
I say, "Okay, going to go on free."
The free, right?
I say,
the
"Where's that
jail.
one?" He say, "Yeah. My partner and I went and buy some to free," which is something that is not unheard of. I know of people who did that already. You know.
Yeah.
But this first time I heard Faraaz say he was going on a rescue
Yeah.
mission.
It was
You know,
unexpected.
it was unexpected.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
we
yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to come here to
This
the
This is
heights
the plan
room.
to come to
Yeah.
the heights room, pick me up to come to the heights room. I
Yeah.
had to go and pick up Iguana
Yeah.
and
Right.
deliver freedom.
So
Right.
I meet him
Yeah.
Well,
in.
before you go ahead, you know that I publish a set of books next year. And
Really?
the key character in the book is Igona.
And there we
So,
go.
Perfect,
so when I
that's
heard that,
perfect.
you know,
Yeah.
I actually had a pet Igona when I was 9. His
Yeah.
name was Fred.
Yeah.
So that was the main character. So we have a Nancy. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
in this one, it have Fred. So Fred is that guardian.
Freddie.
For the-
Fantastic, yeah.
Freddy
So
the
it's
Iguana.
7 books. And when you tell me that, I was like,
Yeah. Freddie the Iguana.
Yeah.
so you went out, how much Iguanas it was?
It was 5. It was 5. He bought
Yeah,
them.
so I gone,
Mm.
meet them in Palmis.
Mm.
The iguanas were Bazodi
Right,
from being
Yeah,
held
yeah,
captive.
Yeah.
You know, so Faraaz associate in all things environmental.
Mm.
He contacted Faraaz about, he just rescued these iguanas. So they were trying to get them back into the wild, so to speak.
Okay.
And they weren't really able to reintegrate one time because of their
Mhm.
level of
Disorientation.
disorientation.
All that was this evening?
Yeah. All that happened just now. All that happened just
I
now.
was,
So
I
which-
was
wait,
now
wait,
going. I was now going to have a shower to get ready to come here.
Right,
Get ready for him to
right.
pick me up at 2:00.
Right.
And it's like 1:45. This man tells me
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So when
I have to.
Yeah, you know,
There's
the
no
call
question
comes, you know
about
what I
it.
mean?
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
And here the thing, so they put the iguanas back in this guy van tray, the guy
Right.
who he's with, his partner.
Right.
And they tell him all follow me now. So we just
Mm.
go and drop them off by a fella who's a
Herpetologist.
herpetologist,
Yeah.
right?
Like snakes, so there's
Yeah,
snakes
reptiles and amphibians.
And stuff. So he also in Palmas. So they were on. Well, the thing get real serious because on the way to the herpetologist, I behind them,
Mhm.
and I like a madman in Palmas beeping my horn because them iguanas taking the jump horse.
Oh, yeah.
One after the other, they jumping out the van
Oh,
trainer,
shit.
So,
right?
but before we go on, right?
So they started catch themselves then.
Yeah,
They started
we-
catching
Yes,
themselves.
I
So
catch
here-
yourself.
Initially, I had called this herpetologist friend
Yeah.
of mine, and I was
Right.
like, but he didn't answer the phone.
Right.
So we decided, all right, here what we'll do. Since they're not moving, when we started to cut there, because they were tied.
Right.
I don't know if you know how they tie iguanas.
Yeah,
when
it's
they
to the
catch them.
back. It's to the- yeah.
Right, so it's like totally,
Yeah.
behind you, your hands behind you, your feet behind you. But they take the longest toe and they pull out the joint. So it's only
Damn.
attached by ligament. And they do that on each of the back feet and they tie those two together while the thing is still alive. So it's incredibly inhumane.
Yeah.
Right? So this one, it was like some of the toes on the iguanas, unfortunately, it's just one toe. So they could still manage to
Yeah,
walk
but I
on it.
noticed all of them, their feet look beat up, and that's
Yeah, it
because of that procedure.
Yeah, kind of flappy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember they were like, the joints were hyperextended for an extended time.
So we are
So
in Bennett
before
Road.
that-
Okay.
Before we reached Bennett Road, we decided to untie these iguanas, 5 iguanas, since they're
Right.
not doing anything.
Right.
In doing that, my friend, the herpetologist man, calls me back and he's
Right.
like, "Yeah, we'll just bring them by me." But he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, now we already untied them, so let's hurry up
Right.
and go before they
Right,
catch
right, right.
themselves."
Right.
And there we go,
Right.
back to his story
Right,
now.
so we going through Bennett Road.
Mhm.
That's circumnavigating Palmas Park kind of
Right.
way.
I'm going to say past the park,
Right.
right?
We do first road on the first when the park now begins.
Right.
That first right.
But
right
down
there.
there easy and down Palmas is where they had the crocodile eating
Yeah.
eating the doors on
That was a caiman that actually I had put there because all right,
I
so
didn't know this.
so a few years prior to that, there was like a sort of big rain in Palmies. There was
Right.
a big rain in South.
Right.
That's
Um,
only boy Leroy CD.
That was
The big
before
snake?
that.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna
that's
say
before that.
we extra a snake too.
Well, that's
Yeah,
your partner
yeah.
Leroy filmed that.
Yeah, that was
Big
right
up
in
Leroy.
by
Big up
Palmies Park,
Leroy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, big up Leroy, man. But I was driving and there was this Cayman on the road, like not
Right.
big, like maybe like
Yeah.
a foot and a half
Yeah.
to 2 feet,
Yeah.
something like that. You know. So I just jumped out and I was like, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
Grab him.
Grab him.
Yeah.
Grab him.
I mean, you had to do what you had to do. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
He's on the road.
yeah.
So I was like, well, I just gonna put this man back
Yeah.
in a little appropriate habitat.
Yeah, how you grab him? Though?
Yeah,
I mean, I a big,
I interested,
I a big
yeah.
crocodile on the
To know
fan
the
and
same.
jet. That man
Yeah.
know what he was doing. Like, you had to go at the back and
So
hold
you
it.
have
Yeah,
grabbing
how
the
do
you-
Cayman,
how
like you have
No, well, okay, so like you remember
I don't
when
really know you
got
have a
that today,
Cayman
right?
grabber now, so
I mean, I do grab things from time to time.
right,
I don't
right,
like to grab things.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
I leave it
Why
to the
not
hookmen
even-
to
Yeah.
really be grabbing things.
Right.
I'm more on the birds and things, so I just
Right.
like to observe. Now, even with the
Yes, yes,
reptiles
yes,
and
yes,
things, I
yes.
just like to observe them as opposed to grab them,
Yeah.
which I have done in the past, but
Mhm.
you know, it's not the best thing that I like to do.
Mm.
Man. But anyway, this thing was in the road,
Mhm.
and I was like, I have to get out and hold this motherfucking thing
Really?
because something is gonna drive over it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
That's
people
right.
don't
That's
care.
right.
Get
People-
damaged.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
drive
yeah,
over
yeah.
caiman, they drive over turtles on the
That's
road.
right. That's
I
right.
had
That's
I
right.
got a call once to go and pick up a tortoise
We-
in like Charlieville or something because someone drove it over and the thing like it had to get its jaw wired shut.
Hmm.
It had to be fed liquids.
we-
It's like underneath here the carapace or what they call it
Mhm.
was totally broken up. Yeah, so I don't even know if that thing
Damn.
even survived. You know,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are
yeah.
people here who run wildlife rehab
Yeah,
and they
yeah, yeah.
try their best.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah,
So-
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So the
So the caiman.
mm,
So I had a cloth now and I threw it over the caiman. Once
Over the
you,
eye.
you cover the
yeah,
eyes,
they just calm down a
yeah,
bit.
they don't really react that much. You know? So you throw it over the eyes and I grab it around the like the shoulders
Yeah.
area and
Mhm.
onto the neck.
Mhm.
That's just generally you don't want to grab it by the tail because
Yeah.
it'll just swing
Right,
around and
right,
bite
right,
you.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so I grabbed him and drove home, and I was living by my parents at the time, so I just called my mother and I was like, just drive me
mom, dad, there's not your
to the park, so let me just go and do this. And she's like, what? You have a caiman?
Mm.
But I didn't really, bat an eyelid really because that's me, you know, it's
How
kind of
big it was?
expected.
About this?
It's about a foot and a half, so
Right.
maybe like about this. So the head was maybe like about that. They could give you a good bite, of course.
Yeah, but for us, let me just chime in right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Granville, right?
Yeah.
Which is a little before Cedros. We
Yeah.
have forests on either side of me. I see caimans in Wikoi Pond before.
Yeah,
Them thing fast.
they're
You
fast and they're
understand? So-
strong.
And they're strong.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just only deal with them in a 12-foot pole.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
understand?
In
So-
Tobago, I jumped on the back of a 4-foot caiman. And
Jump?
that thing just like it threw me off, and I was like, I tried to hold it, but it was just like it was too strong. It was too strong. It
What
had
give you that confidence to be able to?
yeah.
That is a.
I
It's
didn't
not
know it was
really
all, I
confident.
didn't know it
That's-
was all out
that-
you know for us. I didn't know it was all out you. I know it's our birds, man.
yeah.
I didn't know it was
You didn't know exactly how wild I am.
no, I know how wild it is.
No,
Yeah.
But I didn't know how slimy grimy is getting caimans down now.
No, well, the caiman has been nice.
Okay,
You know?
yeah, the caiman.
Caiman.
So the one you rescued ate a dog or something?
Yeah, that was a big
Right,
well,
so
but
I
it was
put it in
it was
Palmy Spark, right?
purported that they eat a puppy.
There was a video of like
Yeah.
2 puppies and this caiman just like
Yeah.
grabbed one of them and the puppy's like, "Grrr!"
Yeah.
You know, whatever the puppy noise
Mm.
is.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, this gotta get this thing out of here, this creature eating our dogs. And I was there like, shit, apart from the fact that I put the thing there, right? I was so happy to see that it got big. And it was, like, yeah, you feel proud now, you know? I put this in here and it feed and it get big and look how nice and shit you looking on, you killing dog and thing.
Yeah.
It's some random potong they have.
Yeah.
No offense to potongs because potongs are lovely, right?
That's right.
But the fact is, it's a national park and dogs are not native to the national park. Right? They are
Correct,
invasive animals in the national park.
Yes,
Here you have
yes,
a
yes,
native animal that's been living here for
Right.
thousands, if not millions of years.
Yeah.
Probably millions because it's a caiman.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
crocodilians
yeah.
around since the time of the
That's
dinosaurs.
Right.
This thing here for so fireball long, and the people
Correct.
come with their potang and it just did what comes naturally.
That's right. That's
To
right.
it.
That's right. That's
And
right.
people
that's
had to come and remove it and carry it somewhere else where
Yeah.
somebody probably go and kill it because they want to eat some alligator.
right. Yeah.
Right.
Understand?
Because I mean, there's a thing in Trinidad, right? People
Yeah.
people eat caiman. And
They eat caiman, and the thing is, they don't even have basic respect for the animals. You have to
Yeah.
call them by the correct names.
Yeah.
I saw a children's book
Yeah.
in some bookstore one the other day,
Yeah.
and it's a coloring book.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was really well done. But the first page I turned on was a picture of an armadillo for people to color, for the kids to color in.
Right.
And it said tattoo. And I was there like, oh God, for fuck's sake,
Mm.
man, it's an armadillo.
Mhm.
Right,
That's
the rest of the world knows it as an armadillo.
Mhm.
But why we
Why
call
do-
anything tattoo?
Yeah.
That's just the colloquial
The
name for
colloquial,
it.
yeah, the local.
Yeah.
The local.
Right.
But the
yeah.
local name should also be taught together with
With
the
the
actual
Yeah.
actual
name,
name.
right? Just like the national bird.
Because you can't verify what is a tattoo anywhere else
Yeah.
except
No,
word of mouth.
And it-
exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
specific, because
Yeah.
I mean, only what I got to find out is that, tamanduas are apparently indigenous to Trinidad as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, when I was trying to finance with an artist doing up a children's book as well, I was looking at animals native to here and I saw tamandu and I was like, I like that. And I was like, well, no, this is native to here. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
So I
And
was
a,
saying,
yeah, and a funny thing
it's
about
a kind of anti.
it's an anteater, yeah.
Okay.
the funny thing about tamandu is that everywhere that tamandus are found, they are like black and white, right? So they have some dark coloration, and the legs might be white or whatever. In Trinidad only is the only place in the world where tamandus are all white.
Oh.
Yeah.
So not to cut off the tamandu is called
Tamandua.
tamandua
Yeah.
talk, but let me get back to the
The caiman.
not even the caiman, the guana.
Oh shit!
yeah,
I forgot about
Right. So
Before we go back to that, I should tell you about the one, the caiman in Tobago that
Uh-huh.
I didn't just go and
Right,
hold
we
the
had to
thing.
we had to delve
Right?
into that.
Yeah.
Right.
But before you dive on it,
Yeah.
Faraaz, it takes. I remember watching Crocodile Hunter for almost a month,
Yeah.
and it gave me so much courage.
Mhm.
And I going out, cause the forest right there.
Yeah,
Going out, it's like look at a horse whip. All right, I take this stick.
Yeah.
That thing take one spin
Yeah.
around me, and I was. You understand what I say?
yeah.
Mhm.
How you get the courage to look at because to me it's a courage thing, and I mean
Mhm.
yoga teaches you about that as well. That's where Rudra comes from.
Right,
You understand
correct.
that master of animals, the cobra and all that.
Yeah.
Was it like a personal growth thing for you to go past that point, or you always could have made that jump?
It was never a thing of like an aspiration of mine to be able to hold an animal, right? The reason why I like, just as the one on the road, I picked it up to
Yeah,
help
is
it.
that care? Is
Right?
that drive? Yeah.
This one in Tobago, some children were fishing for caiman. They bought a huge hook, and they put like a piece of chicken on it, and they were
Damn.
fishing for caiman. So this caiman now, which is a big caiman now, had a massive hook through its jaw, right? And they hauled it out. And when I reached there, now the security knew me there from going there to do bird watching,
Right,
right?
right.
So he's like, hey, well, look what happened here, if you could lend a hand. So I get there. There's a caiman there with like a half-inch thick hook through its lower jaw, and a bunch of people standing around. And who's gonna do something? Yeah.
So what was the next step after
Well,
you?
what should have been done was get and this is only in retrospect, right? What should have been done is like you get like a plank of wood or something and let
Yeah.
it bite on that.
Right.
Then you throw the cloth over its head
Right.
and you hold the jaw shut while you you take it out. But we didn't have a stick or anything like that. So what we did was I just ended up trying to cut the line loose and let its body
Yeah,
get
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah,
normally
yeah.
because I tried to get the hook out, but to get the hook out, I had to restrain the
it's
thing,
a
and that's
team-
why I jumped on the thing to
Right.
try to restrain it. To,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because once you get your hands around the snout of a
Yeah.
crocodile or caiman or whatever, they can't open it back.
Yeah, they don't have
Okay.
the strength to
Yeah, all the strength
It's-
is in closing.
chomping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To open it back.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
with
but
that,
yeah.
with that 20-foot solo, you gonna
Yeah,
take
yeah,
and feel
yeah.
it, take and push it.
Yeah.
I go through that.
No, I
I
ain't
mean,
got
I
a
think
No,
tool.
that has some Hulk Hogan hands and things to,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
be.
because
So,
like
like,
you know,
yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I felt like I had to do it.
Yeah.
Do you feel?
And to help. You know?
And that is the same thing that happened today,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You felt that, well, that was a priority because we
Yeah.
had this to come and do.
Even though I
Yeah.
had responsibilities,
Yeah.
you know, like
How
there was
old
no
the iguanas
choice.
were? It was small.
They were varying ages, right?
Right.
So the iguanas, when they now hash a completely bright green, like neon green.
Yeah.
As they get older, the color matures as well, now,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
get more browns and grays
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
They're
And some of
beautiful.
these were still pretty bright green,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it
yeah.
tells you that they're still
They're real
young, they're
pretty.
adolescent iguanas.
Isn't there something like a hunting season or something like that?
Yes.
In Trinidad?
We are in hunting season
Yeah,
right now.
currently
Oh,
we
we're
in
in
the
hunting
hunting, yeah,
season. Okay,
yeah.
so that's perfectly legal.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
The hunting season actually, like some of the requirements, the regulations have changed as of this year. So as of this year, the latest you could have an iguana is December 31st.
Right.
It used to be up until March.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So they are
Right.
making certain
So,
changes to it.
Yeah, they
Right.
are making certain changes to
So the-
hunting.
I was there beeping my horn
Right.
because these iguanas
Jumping.
jumping for life out of this van tree now, right? Oh, so they're on the road now. So I had to stop because me I'm gonna run over a iguana that we
Right,
don't
right.
get to see.
Yeah.
So now they come on the road now, them I want to run. So we there causing traffic and Faraaz with one watching Faraaz, so one Faraaz saying, "No, go." I said, "Faraaz, take it for the head, that'll nudge." If I want to go. The next one, well, I guess he was so hurt he couldn't move.
Right.
So
right,
he
right,
was,
right, right,
he used all his strength to jump out of the tree.
Right.
But he couldn't really get off the road.
Right.
The other one, he went in somebody's house. So them will have to deal with him.
Yeah.
And
Comment.
Yeah.
You know,
We sorry.
post the comment,
Yeah,
put
yeah,
some
we-
pictures.
yeah.
Apologies.
and
to
going,
people,
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
Yeah.
they were no longer bound and
Yeah.
ready for the pot.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to them. Now we tried something, right? But
it
but
was in our residential
it wasn't.
area.
Yeah, it's not the
People-
same thing.
People are
Yeah.
supposedly, and like, the reason why we chose Palmis Park
Mhm.
was because like we wanted it to be in a place, because where else we carry it? We carry it, you know. in
It don't
a-
really have much
if
place.
you
I
go
mean,
in
you're
the
from
forest,
Palmis too,
in
and you have a
south,
big park there, with
Yeah,
a forest,
right.
forested area,
and
so
we are
it's a
around all the
no-brainer.
time. So if you know you see
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
hunting, then you know it's like we could do something about
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
you know.
So 4 got out due to jumping out.
Right.
2 were
Right.
given to the herpetologist.
Right.
Three jumped out and 2
3
were given.
Oh, right.
By the time we arrived at the herpetologist, there was only one
In the tree.
in the tree, and I was holding one on my lap.
Right.
Yeah,
And
'cause
it
I
didn't
was-
bite. It didn't.
No, that was the one that was giving trouble on the road. I was like,
Right.
get off the road, and it's just like look at me and like, hitting me with his tail and that kind of thing. And I was like, I know you're frightened. That turned out to be a really big female. So she was really frightened. She was
Yeah.
really, really afraid. You know, you could only imagine what these people did to her.
Yes.
I mean, these animals sentient,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they
I-
just they live in their life. They're doing their
Yeah.
thing. They're getting a little food. You know, they might
Yeah.
see somebody. Hey, I find it
Yeah.
nice. You know, and then lo and behold, their hands and feet
No, no.
bound.
Now let me ask you this, Faraaz, right? As you said, we are in hunting season,
Yeah.
right? These iguanas were hunted. Is there a do you know if there is a age limit on when you could hunt them or not?
I don't know offhand, but
Maybe
I know,
there's
like,
not.
hunting associations advise
Advise.
people
Okay.
to
Yeah, well-
hunt ethically.
Yeah, well,
But it is left up to the people.
Well, I
because
mean-
nothing is really enforced, and those things are
hunt
actually
ethically,
rules.
not really. Though I don't really see that in the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Neither me.
I mean, you know,
It's still in the
especially
blood.
in Trinidad,
Yeah.
where they will
Mm.
they will hunt anything once
Yeah.
it's living.
Right.
Like
Yes.
even scarlet
Yeah.
ibis, which is protected,
Yeah.
right? Now, my question is this for us.
But you ever hunt though? You ever hunt?
No, I never hunt,
You ever
but
hunt?
No.
No.
I never.
but you would
wanted
have
to.
hunt because you grew up in a place where where I
I mean,
teach.
I'm a vegetarian, so I would think. I mean, okay, somebody else
Yeah.
might have your opinion. You know.
Yeah.
It's different going through the forest, huh?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I'm talking deep forest that you could
Yeah.
lose
You could
yourself
get
in.
lost in.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that time, I think, me and some partners was running crab.
Yeah.
And another time they was hunting tattoo or
Yeah.
they were just hunting. It wasn't
Mhm.
nothing specific, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But that's a common pastime in where you grew up.
Yeah.
Where you grew up.
And that, I mean, that's like, 15 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I feel, the forest was a lot more.
I
Abundant.
agree with
Yeah.
you.
You know
I
what I
agree
mean?
with you.
Where,
you know.
where I work, like that is a common pastime of people. They're
Right.
down in Point Fortin and stuff.
Right.
It's a
Yes,
common,
yes,
common
yes,
thing.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
Hunting
yes,
is a common thing.
Yeah,
We have people who known by the name Hunter and things.
Yeah.
Because
See, and as you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Just that short time ago, because
Yeah.
15 years is not a long time
No,
ago,
no.
right? 15 years or 10 years ago, the forest was a lot louder.
Yes.
The forest was a lot more lively
Yeah.
then as opposed to now.
Yeah.
The rate of change
Yeah.
is monumental.
So would you say that fact, besides your own personal ethics towards life, because
Yeah.
you are a vegetarian
Yeah.
and you believe in the preservation of all forms of life in regards to like hunting and all these things. You don't really
Well,
believe in hunting and stuff.
It's not like something to believe in or something to not
Yeah.
believe in,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
There are different kinds of hunting.
Right.
So they're like subsistence hunting for people who
That's
need
how they-
food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they live
Right?
in that kind of
And they
extreme.
live in the environment, and there's
Yeah.
abundant food available, and
Right.
they are,
Right.
but for people who can
Mhm.
very well afford to buy a piece of chicken or buy a piece of beef or lamb or whatever in the
Mhm.
grocery,
Mhm.
then there's no need for them
I
to
understand.
hunt.
Yeah.
The
Right.
other issue I have with hunting is that from the time you place a dollar sign on a life,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
throwing ethics out of the window,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yes.
you're using these animals' lives for profit.
Mhm,
If you
mhm.
think about it, right, if this country were to make it illegal for you to sell wild meat,
Mhm.
make it
Mm.
illegal for you to hunt,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
but it is illegal for you to
Right.
sell the wild meat,
Yeah, nobody would.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Only the people who in the bush going and they hunting,
Yeah.
And they'll
you
eat
know,
it.
they will shoot it
live
and they
off
will
it.
eat it,
Yeah.
right? And they would, whether they don't have to live off of it, but they could have a wild meat cooked now and
Yeah.
again.
Mm.
But the people who will sit on their asses and do nothing and they're full of money,
Mm.
they're the ones who want to call a tamandua, which is protecting the cat,
Right.
and they're the ones
Ibis.
who want to call the scarlet ibis.
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
So anytime there is a trade in wild meat for money,
mhm.
you outlaw that,
Mhm.
right? And it may not stop everybody,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to stop a certain amount, a certain
Yeah.
percentage, and any percentage better than none.
Yeah.
Right.
You
I mean,
understand?
was that real? I know some time ago it had an issue with people hunting the scarlet ibis and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
was that like a real thing? Like
That's a current issue.
Yeah, that's a
ongoing
real
issue.
thing, bro.
Jesus.
That's a
That's
real
an
thing.
ongoing issue.
What could you hunt it for though? I mean, I
People
come from
eat
a
it, bro. It's like it's said to be
What?
the sweetest.
It's a flex. It's a
Yeah.
flex.
Is that
Yeah.
It's
I
said to be the
guess since that
sweetest.
is a kind of flex.
It's
too, you
like
know?
ivory,
I have heard.
right?
I have heard
It's
people.
like
I have heard people
ivory.
say that red butter tastes sweet. That's what
Yeah.
I've heard.
I've also heard people say the sweetest meat is a monkey meat, a monkey
Yeah, I hear
mother who holding up the child.
Mhm.
Because when people go to hunt and they're hunting monkeys,
Yeah.
the females are the young, the howlers and things,
Right,
they would just
yeah.
go and they'll hold up the babies,
Yeah.
to say, I have a child,
Yeah.
spare our life,
Yeah.
But they kill the mother for the meat and they use the baby and sell the baby as a pet.
Mhm.
So anybody
Yeah.
who has a pet monkey,
Yeah.
that is where that monkey came from. Because you can't just farm monkeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
yeah,
monkey,
yeah,
right, has an unbreakable bond with its mother,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially at that age.
Yeah.
Has an unbreakable bond.
Yeah.
There's no difference between the bond that you have with your mother,
Yeah.
a human would have with his mother.
So
right?
do you see difference between animals' life? Like you looking at animals' eyes, right?
Yeah.
Do you see difference between that and a human?
Yes. Yeah. The
What's
animal
it?
life is pure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Animal life is pure.
Right. Yeah. And is it that you feel, because that's what they describe in yoga is the root of Rudra,
Mhm.
which is that there's that growth and connection with the animal.
Yeah.
And it reaches a point where you feel what the animal feel. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And that is like a point of mastery of interacting with animals.
Yeah.
Like it's a form of love then.
It is a form of love because nature is love,
Right.
right? And you get into that, and me as a photographer,
Yeah.
the point of contact with me,
Yeah.
and by extension my audience, and the natural world is through the eyes of the animals.
Right.
So every
Yeah.
single one of my pictures
Yeah.
would be the actual focal point of the
Yeah.
picture is the eye of the animal,
Right.
because as they
Right.
say, the eyes
Right.
are the window to your soul,
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Right. Right.
and they all have souls, right?
Well, tell me about. I mean, I have one up here. Or you could pull up one. Go again. Go again. Right. So I picked out ones that kind of spoke to me,
Yes.
but I want you to kind of take me through it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this one, and I mean, we have macaws home by us, but I've never seen them captured with this level of playfulness, this
Yeah.
level of glory.
Yeah.
How you find these? You know.
Well, these were wild macaws. There's some areas in the country where you get in some wild macaws now,
Right. Right.
and the villagers.
And these are illegal to have, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have these without. Well, they say without a permit.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But as always in this country, enforcement is.
What do you
Yes.
mean by a permit though? Like a permit
Yeah,
for having macaws?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well,
That
why,
permit thing is
why,
alright.
but why,
Yeah.
what would... Okay, you can't have another without a permit. Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but let me carry your thought further because I thought the same thing as well. At that time, I was interested in wildlife,
Yeah.
and I wanted, because the dream for me is to have a huge conservation center.
Yes.
Right? That's my dream, my
Yeah.
personal dream. So after a while, I started to look at different animals, and I realized you have to get a permit to have these things.
Yeah.
And I'm there thinking, well, what? Like I see some people with macaws, and they say, well, they have a permit. What qualifies, or is it a bubble thing? You know?
I really wish I knew more to say. I don't
Yeah.
want to say something I'm not totally
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
about. But what gives us the right to have authority over another life?
Yeah.
Right. So.
And what makes someone more within their rights to
Yeah.
own that
To own
Yeah.
a life,
than another?
And
I can understand, okay, with permitted guns and so on, because
Yeah.
a gun is a dangerous thing.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
trying to regulate.
You know, you want to regulate like who is
Yeah.
accessing this and for what purpose.
Yeah.
Well, guns were made to destroy.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even a knife. A knife is
Yeah.
still a tool.
Yeah.
You know?
Guns were made to
Guns
kill.
were made to kill.
Guns are made to kill. So the
Yeah.
point is, you know, with a tool that is made to kill, you would think that that there is obviously a need to regulate who comes into contact with that tool.
Yeah.
Now, with a macaw, like what we're talking about here,
Mm.
a macaw is an animal people want them as a pet.
Right.
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 I mean, the only other people who would have need for the macaw is like people who deal with wildlife in terms of science
Yeah.
or something like
So-
that.
so-
So what
right,
I'm saying is,
exactly.
unless someone like
At that level.
at that level where they are
Yeah.
studying the macaw and they have a
Exactly.
permit for studying the macaw,
Yeah.
what really gives someone right more than another to
Yeah.
own a macaw?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean now.
Well,
Because
so
both of them want it for the same reason,
Right.
which is to have it as a pet.
right.
It is either the macaw is allowed to be a pet or it's
Yeah.
not allowed to
Or
be
it's
a
not
pet.
allowed.
Why does one have to have a
Yeah.
permit unless it's for like scientific research or some kind of other
And
or for conservation?
Then it's not
Some-
a pet.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not a pet,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It's or it's a make a conservation facility or
Yeah.
something
And-
greater than just having it as a
Yeah.
pet or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, I could carry that discussion even further, in that I would have been involved a couple times previously when certain people in the country and outside of the country was looking at, almost citywide development, and they were looking at creating, environmental assets. So at that time, they were looking at, well, what is the going trend in the world? And one of the things that you find is that the going trends of the world is that people are moving away from zoos, and they're moving towards something called conservation areas,
Yep.
like
Yep.
the Eden Project.
Yep.
I think
National
Singapore.
parks.
That's right. So
Yeah.
so it's putting animals, not for exhibition, but you
Right.
design a very natural. It's expensive,
Yeah,
you know, but it shows that thought,
Correct.
and it creates an environment so that it aids the conservation effort in some way.
Yeah.
So you must have it, tied to a big research
Yes.
entity. This is how much we have. This is what we have here.
Yeah.
You're breeding it, and perfect example of that. Last year when I was in Chengdu, China,
Mm.
it's amazing to see that giant panda breeding program.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
they take pride in it, huh?
They take it's
Yeah.
and the people it's like, you know what I mean, it's like carnival, you know what I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and people look at it and they talk about, but then you see it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
because like there, and people looking at it, and it's amazing to see a panda, you know what I mean. It's like they come out and then I ask the question, well, how did they get here though? Because Chengdu is denser,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So and then they say, well, they were in the hillsides there before.
Yeah.
So what happened to the hillsides? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like,
They're
you
all
move
there.
towards this,
Yeah.
but it's like more of a necessary evil kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're all losing their homes now, right? So instead of like taking them from their homes and putting them in jail,
Yeah.
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 then have them in their homes and let people try to see them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was
But
thinking.
speaking about, not to cut you across.
Yeah.
Speaking about homes,
Yeah.
okay. Is the Caroni Bird Sanctuary more or less a home for species,
Yeah.
right? It is,
It's a sanctuary.
and
It's-
but
it's,
it was made a sanctuary, and this is my own ignorance, just airing it out loud. It was made a sanctuary due to the fact that is where those birds breed, like the scarlet ibis. That is where they nest and so on.
yeah.
That was not created for them to nest. That's a mangrove that's there that they come to nest
Well,
at.
yeah.
And
Historically, they were
and
nesting throughout. They would be roosting throughout that
the
west coast.
yeah, the mangroves.
The whole west coast,
Mhm.
from Port of Spain to Westmore, Chagaramas, all there. That whole nice curve in the
Mhm.
Gulf of Paria was lovely, lovely mangrove.
So, at what point in your knowledge, generally, when was the Caroni Bird Sanctuary founded?
It started, I think, with pre-independence.
Right?
Mhm.
Pre-independence,
Mhm.
because it is now it's called Winston Nanan Caroni Bird Sanctuary, right?
Because he's
Right.
one of the founding
Yeah.
fathers of the whole
Right,
towers
so
and thing.
Winston Nanan's father
Mm-hmm.
was he was a hunter,
Right.
and he used to carry people out, but he was the first one to really see there was a need to protect the scarlet ibis,
Mm.
and he started that movement,
Right.
and he used to chase down hunters and chase them from the
Right.
swamp and all kind
Right,
of things.
Right.
And as what usually happens, so
Yeah.
many environmentalists and many advocates for the
Mm.
environment,
Mm-hmm.
his life came to a premature end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I mean, Caroni Bird Sanctuary is a Ramessar site. No?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean,
So
that
it's a-
that means if you have to do it's almost impossible to do development inside.
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? But then
It's what's the word you use?
Ramessar site.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
recognized.
pledge,
Yeah.
like it's a pledge at the
at
countries
the
take.
UN level.
We
you
are
know what I
all
mean?
going to take every effort to
Yeah.
protect this place
Okay.
because
Yes.
it is so important
It's
for
classed as
Right.
environmentally
Yeah.
sensitive.
Right. So
Yeah.
the reason I brought this up is because I remember the issue of the cats at the bird sanctuary, and that was a very touchy issue because everyone, when it comes to these issues, they all want to chime in, and people are coming from more or less a place of concern. But
Mhm.
again, do we understand the history and the actual what's at stake? So you all are saying this is a Ramessar site, right? So this is something that is internationally
Yes,
acclaimed
yes,
as
yes,
an area
yes,
for
yes.
this. So it's a Caroni Bird
Yeah.
Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Now there was a lot of heat
Yeah.
coming Faraaz way, I remember,
I remember.
because of the fact that people dump cats at the bird sanctuary.
I know what to say.
Cats-
Who was the
cats breed.
native inhabitants of the sanctuary?
Right.
You have to start there.
Yeah.
And why I mention that, and let me segue into this
Mhm.
before we come back, is that because I think it was Dr. Rwana Juman, I think was the first one who dealt with getting it as a Ramessar site.
Mhm.
And once that happened, the question was then exactly what you said, which is that how far did this go originally? How far west? And then you look at certain paintings, old paintings of Port of Spain. People who know Port of Spain, you all know where the church is? On Independence Square.
And
Right? So it's right on Independence
Mhm,
Square.
mhm.
The
Yeah.
ocean was there.
yeah,
Right.
There's a painting of the ocean being
Yeah.
right there.
Right.
So the question is then, are we developing
In what?
at a cost.
Yeah, of course.
And at what point in time do we say this cost is too much? So something like those cats to me is an example of that. So it's an activity that is happening that we have to identify that there's this natural state. And of course I might be a little more passionate about it than normal. And the reason for that is because, and I was telling earlier about that there's this principle in Rastafarianism called the Nyabingi, the Nyabingi ordeal, or the Nyabingi principle, right? And that principle speaks to in creation, all was created perfect. So in other words, there's no need. Once you see something perfect, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you look at problems coming, it's some external unnatural pressures, which we're going to come to later on in the show with climate change, and the roots of climate change. So those cats coming in, I mean, how does a cat reach it?
Right, so it's placed there because people dumping them in the area and they're thriving in an area where there are a lot of birds and so on.
Yeah.
Now,
but let me ask, how cold does your heart have to be?
Well, that's a whole...
Okay, so here there's a problem here, right?
Right.
There are many problems.
Right.
One is that cats are predator.
Right. Natural predator.
And you are introducing a predator in a sanctuary. So that therefore ceases to become a sanctuary. Right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like you want to lay your head down to sleep in the night, but you just have murderers just at the bedside. Not even outside the house.
As you say predators, is that snake real?
Yes.
Okay. Every time pass I see that snake right there. I mean?
I really think people say that's not fake. No, it's not fake. That's just his spot. That's just his zone.
Yeah.
And you have custom people passing and saying, look at me, like, fake.
Once you go up and down, you see in the mangrove all the time, like these things start to, you start to see them easier. Right. So even things like silky anteater and that kind of thing, which is a ball, curls up in a ball like the size of this. And these guides who are doing the tours, they could spot these things from I don't know how far away. That's incredible. So so the cats in the bird sanctuary, they are a predator, so it ceases to become a sanctuary. The next problem is that there are people who go there daily and feed the cats. So they think that they are
doing
helping
good.
and they are doing good, and the
For the
intention
cat.
is to do good. I'm not faulting them for that. The intention is to do good because they are these poor starving babies and we must feed them, right? So they feed the cats. The cats get food. The cats maintain a certain level of strength which allows them then to hunt better and to have bigger litters, because a starving mother cat will not be able to properly nurse to full head 6 kittens.
Right.
She might barely make 1 or 2. But a cat that's being fed, right, that mother cat is going to make 6 mother cat kittens. Understand?
So I remember you said that they should be, dealt with. I remember you used the term humanely euthanized.
Yeah.
And that obviously
that has happened.
lit a fire under some people
that has
because
in the past. Yeah.
Because they see it as you are condoning the killing of cats.
Correct.
But you are a cat owner.
I am owned by a cat.
You are owned by a cat.
Yeah, I'm owned by a cat.
Yeah.
But yeah, this before I get to the issue of people feeding the cats, right? It became common knowledge that people feed the cats. Right. So other people who have an unwanted litter of kittens because they didn't listen to people and they didn't spay or neuter their pets or whatever. They have 4 or 5 kittens. Well, let's just go and drop it by carrier because people come and feed them. So they will get food.
It becomes outlet.
Right? Yeah. So it kind of gets okay for more people to come and drop the cats. And then the people who feed in the cats will be like, oh God, more people come and drop more cats. People heartless, here look food. And everyone knows that. So they enable the blasted behavior in the first place.
So I mean, it's really a matter of people not knowing when to put aside their emotions and look at things from an objective point of view.
Well, hold on. Let me carry, because I mean, is the height room, right? We're
Mhm.
moving
Yeah.
from facts to truth. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something deep that we'll get to in another time.
Mhm.
But you know, here we wanna carry the thought process a little further. You know what I mean? It's not just reaching this point and stopping. We're saying on an open platform, what then? What is the next step? I mean, Faraz said what he thinks is the next step. What I mean, people saying, well, no, you can't. So what is your recommendation there? You know what I mean? What
Well,
is because
the-
I mean, it's
Yeah.
easy to complain, huh?
It
You
is
know
easy
what
to
I mean?
complain,
So it's
right?
like what do
I
they
personally
recommend?
have met with some animal, I went there
Right.
with an animal welfare group,
Right.
right, and we assessed the situation,
Yeah.
and it was determined then that it's too big and a wide-ranging problem for it to be dealt with on a private level.
Yeah.
It has to be state.
Yeah.
So forestry eventually got involved, and they did trap some of the cats, right? That was a couple of years ago. Right? And they trapped some of the cats, and then they went. So the number of cats went down,
Right.
but the number of cats eventually increased
Right,
again.
with the litters and
Right, with people coming and feeding them, and just that whole cycle.
By the way, them cat real
Right.
dread too, because the time I
Yeah.
went there and one jump out at me, gone for my face now horse.
What?
Them cat not normal down in the part where you could then where they have the pictures inside the room with
The
I
visitor
can display
center.
the visiting center. I had an event there
Yeah.
and a cat which is now somewhat not obvious, not native, but one who believes that is his
Feral.
a feral cat.
feral,
It's,
yes,
it's
yes,
a feral
yes,
cat.
yes.
But it's as if I went and jumped in
Yeah.
his zone now because this character was up in some rafters and thing, marking the scene, reached to the point where I think there's a kind of bar area, but I mean there was not people there.
Yeah. It wasn't
And-
Kathmandu.
Yeah, no, it wasn't about Kathmandu. Although he is a soldier too, looking to damage people. But horse, straight to my face,
Yeah.
And I mean, it was the first time I own cats as well. The first time I got rushed by a cat now.
Yeah.
And we not rush in terms of on the ground,
Yeah.
mid-air rush.
Mid-air
now.
rush.
Yeah.
So people
You
had
have
to
to pull
realize
off
too.
some kind of meat.
People
No,
had
that's
to
scary,
realize
but
too.
that's scary.
Right, if a cat could approach me
Yeah.
with that, and the cat is obviously not a being that like there's rush humans that get out of style.
Yeah.
But they are in the
Some
currently
pressures.
bird
So
sanctuary.
right. So here's the scene, right? There's something that people need to understand generally that a domestic cat, which they aren't truly domesticated, but there's a whole other height,
Yeah.
right? The cat has live in your house and sleep in your bed and thing. Those are domestic cats,
Domestic.
right?
Right.
Then there are stray cats, right?
Right.
Stray cats will be roaming out
They'll
and
come and
about,
get fed.
and they will be fed.
Right.
Feral cats are totally wild, right? Born wild and raised wild.
What do you mean by totally
Right.
wild? Because when people say totally wild,
Yeah.
I think about some of my partners.
Yeah.
Fellas like when naps with, they're totally wild.
They are,
Right?
yeah.
It might
But
be.
yeah,
But these are born wild and raised wild.
but what does wild mean?
Born wild and raised wild, so they never had any human contact.
Right.
Okay.
Right?
So as they
So-
see human, is it that
It's a
they
threat.
see them as prey? Well,
It is-
even
no,
worse
none of
than
them
that,
see them
is
as
it
prey.
A threat.
But they are not they
Open
don't
to human
deal with
interaction.
human interactions in
Yeah.
the same way that even a stray would,
Right.
because a stray cat still knows to come
Yeah,
to
for
a
food.
human for food,
Yeah.
right? But you
Yeah.
can't like pick it up or
Right,
whatever, you
right,
can't hug
right,
it up.
Right.
Are we just a plague? on
Yes,
nature?
yes. We are the bacteria in a finite petri dish, and we do know.
That's-
Hey,
That's
Yeah.
it dive off.
Yeah, well,
We was going now. We was going
I was
now.
like,
The
you
cat
know,
and
I
them.
mean,
the
does
cats, right? The issue with the cats is that the stray cat, the feral cat, and the domestic cat,
Yeah.
they all look the same.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
people can't tell. All
Only
cats
thing you can tell
cute.
it in the
All
eyes.
cats real adorable
Right.
and they're real nice and they be like, wait, look at puss, right? And that
Nah,
cat
nah,
could
nah.
they different. They all of them different.
I just see it in the eyes. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that one watch me.
Yeah.
The
But-
That's
shit
it,
in
they
the
was
eyes.
coming for.
People,
Yeah.
people are like handlers
Yeah.
are afraid to handle some to do that kind of trapping with
Yeah.
ferals.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
But
there's some.
Before I said this whole thing about me getting rushed, you were saying that's how you networked with the Association who
yeah.
came to the site.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
and it was too
and
big of a
you all
problem.
wanted state
Yeah.
to intervene.
Right.
State intervened.
State intervened and they trapped a few,
Right.
right? But
Years
the
have
time,
passed.
time has passed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and people have to continue dumping more cats,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what somebody went and did someday,
Mhm.
Yeah.
some time ago,
Start
was
the hunt.
no, they put poison,
Or poison, right.
And
There was something in
poison a
Right.
bunch of them,
Mhm.
right?
Wow.
No, I never condone releasing poison into
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
ecosystem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
You're not killing cats alone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're killing rats. And I'm talking about native rats.
Is that
You're
it?
talking about those are the cats here.
Is
Right?
that the cousin on
Dead.
the lagoon?
He
Oh
dead,
shit, it
yeah.
dead.
Dead, yeah.
Oh, that's the one that
Face down.
poisoned. Yeah, because
face down.
we don't want to know,
But
you know,
Faraaz,
what's going on there.
look at how fluffy and big and
Yeah,
Right.
well
So
said.
that
look
could be
healthy.
Well
that
fed,
could
well fed.
be a house cat.
Mhm.
That cat could be on the couch right here.
How big it is,
But
eh?
that cat
Like it
is
didn't
a
show every day.
feral stinking cat. That cat is a total killer.
Yeah.
And not
A
even
wild man.
even domestic
Oh,
cats.
well.
But like 2 weeks ago, my cat,
Yeah,
who I
Man
hand
cat.
raised,
man cat.
right,
Yeah,
man
that's it.
cat.
Man cat.
I fed him with a dropper from when he was smaller than my
Yeah.
hand, right? And he's only lived with me, right? He fought my hand,
Mm.
like if my hand was another cat,
Right, you see
and
the
damaged
digs.
my hand. I
Yeah,
couldn't use
boy.
my thumb
Jeez,
for about 3 or 4 days. I couldn't use my thumb at all. My hand was bandaged and that kind of thing.
He was in a zone now. He
And
was
that's
watching
a-
our next cat.
so that's
He was
Yeah,
watching our
yeah,
next
yeah,
cat
He was
and
following our
Faraaz
next cat
startled
now.
him and he didn't realize what was
But
going on.
then let me ask this though. I mean, in South America, you know, I follow a couple guys up there and a couple guys in the States who have wild big cats, right?
Yeah.
They have a conservation thing for these
Yeah,
big
yeah.
cats and whatnot. And I mean, you would see on viral videos, you know, in South Africa, where this guy came and you know, hugged a lion who didn't see him for a
Kevin
long time.
Richardson.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was
um,
also a story of Christian the lion.
Christian, that's the guy. That's the one I remember,
Christian the
right?
lion, yeah. They bought a lion cub in Harrods, in England.
They bought him in Harrods.
Harrods used to sell animals, Dread.
Talk
You
shit
know the
now.
store and big
Harrods, I know
Harrods.
Harrods,
Yeah,
2,000
yeah,
pounds
yeah.
a bag,
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, Harrods used to sell animals.
And what kind of cat you talking about? What kind of cat is this we
So
talking
these
about?
Lion, I sell a lion.
Yeah, they bought a lion cub.
Fucking lion.
Yes.
You remember when you go
Again.
Buckingham Palace, it
Yeah,
have the kingdom
yeah, yeah.
of and all them
So-
things, and
so-
Africa is
Right.
a kingdom, huh? You know what I mean?
So, but you know, and this comes.
Well,
back,
they were the
this-
colonizers.
But this comes back
Yeah,
to
So
our,
they own.
yeah,
They
You
have the
understand?
right
That's right. That's right.
to take.
and it comes back to what I was saying about right,
Pillage!
how right, how does one end up becoming ordained to
Yeah.
sell a lion?
Right,
To
You
right.
own-
understand?
Well, self-righteousness is a hell of a thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Coming back to Trinidad, we were talking about the state intervening in order to help this one problem of
Yeah.
the cat invasion, if you want to call it that,
Mm.
Yeah,
of the Caroni Bird Sanctuary.
yeah.
Cataclysm.
But
The
we
cataclysm,
have,
yeah,
Mm.
cataclysm.
we are a Caribbean island.
Right.
We are, you know, an island with rainforest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
as it's called. You know, we were once part of Venezuela,
South America.
South
yeah.
America, so we
Yeah.
have that same type of flora and fauna pretty much in a certain way.
Yeah, we have a
Wait, what? Say that
mix.
We were
We-
once part of South
We were
America.
part of Venezuela.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were. So in other words,
Up until I
Venezuela,
think about 10,000.
Venezuelan immigration
either,
is really
either
people that's coming to the next
10,000.
part of their home, really and truly.
Yeah, either 10,000 or 8,000 years ago we separated from the mainland.
As in physically, it had an earthquake and it's separate, or,
no,
or like politically.
no, sea levels.
Tectonics.
Sea levels.
Okay, sea level. Oh, sea
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay,
sea
okay.
level, change in sea levels. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, so
that's
there was
why
like
we
a bridge.
share.
There was a bridge between Trinidad and South America,
Right.
right?
Wow.
And when the sea levels, ice caps melted because remember Ice Age and whatever. So
Right.
post Ice
Yeah,
Age,
right,
all the
yeah,
ice
yeah,
melted, the sea
yeah,
levels rose and flooded all of them
yeah,
plains.
yeah,
Now.
yeah,
Right.
Dre, the Orinoco Delta used to flow straight throughout Trinidad.
Right. Right.
Between the northern range and the
we
central
hear about
range.
these
What?
things.
That is why, like after millions of years of sediment, areas like Valsain and that whole central
Right,
stretch is like
right.
perfect agricultural land.
Right.
But in our
right,
infinite wisdom, we built those places up.
Yeah, into suburban areas.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking Orinoco, we're talking rainforest, right?
Mm.
We're talking Caroni Bird Sanctuary, we're talking the mangroves.
There's
we're talking,
real plenty thing, boy.
right?
Yeah.
All these
Yeah,
things,
that's what
right?
we're talking there, yeah.
And then we have the government. right? The
Yeah.
state and how they are dealing with these things. And
Well,
when
the
it-
state does. The state drags its feet. Generally, the state
Mhm.
drags its feet, and
Mhm.
they don't do things in a timely enough manner, right? Because some things are critical,
Right.
right? The
Right.
situation with the cats in the county swamp is
Right.
critical, it's
critical.
acute.
Right.
You know, it's happening now.
And that's what
Yeah.
like a Ministry of Agriculture, like a forestry fall under them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, ministries have to come together. People have to come together.
Mm.
They both political parties need to
Mhm.
work together.
Yeah,
and
but
stop
right
pulling
now we are
one way
miles
and
off.
Yeah,
We
I
are
mean,
miles
I-
off
I
because
Right.
what I'm seeing.
That's a very
Yeah,
deep-seated problem.
Yeah, but what
Yeah,
I'm seeing is we
yeah.
have the cats. You know, that's the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about
Mm.
the quarries all over the country,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where we are
Once
quarrying.
you get through,
illegally.
you get quarry.
Yeah.
And it's what you call
Yeah.
illegal
Yeah.
quarries because there's no actual paperwork in place.
Yeah.
for-
You get through, then no partner. You
for
know what I mean?
the-
Link
Yeah,
you up with
yeah,
that quarry.
Yeah,
you
you know,
understand?
right? And then there's
Even
this
that,
port at Togo.
even that is an
Yeah.
oxymoron. I mean, you could quarry legally.
Yeah.
That's an oxymoron. It's like, who give you the authority
Yeah,
to break
yeah,
down
yeah.
a mountain? Well,
Yeah.
if the government gave you permission, then what, you could mine sustainable.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
break down
Because
a
at the end of the
mountain,
day,
you break
at the
down
end
a
of the day,
mountain.
no
Right,
progress
correct.
in
If
Yeah.
you remove 100-year-old forest,
right.
Yeah.
you can't grow that back in 2 years.
No.
Right. So again, we cannot progress in this day and age with the world in which we live in, how it has progressed. We cannot make more progress without having to cut across certain areas, as you might say, like how Mr. Kublal Singh was against damaging the ecosystem by
Yeah.
Mondesi and all this kind of thing. So people would say, well, that's progress. We have to build the highway, all this kind of thing. So it's always a give and take. But I realize in Trinidad
Yeah.
that what you're always saying in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, but there's a
Yeah.
heavy word you use there, cutter. Where you get that name from?
Cutter?
Yeah.
Oh, that's our whole podcast in itself.
Yeah, what I hear? I hear you're playing football and you could have cut past men real good. So they
Uh-huh.
call you cutter.
No, that's our
I
big
never,
lie.
I never question it.
I
I
know,
just
I
used to
hear,
make
I
up
talk
my
on the
my
go.
own meanings. No.
Some men go say, what?
Yeah.
Nah. It's not that.
Yeah,
much.
but I mean, hear this. When I went on some training, and that training had people from China, people from Africa, people from the Caribbean, people from Latin America. I asked 7 different people the same question intentionally. What is progress? I got 7 different answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that in itself is a
What do
very-
you consider progress?
Well, there's
Bearing
so-
in mind there's no easy answer.
Yeah, and there's so many different types of progress that the human race
20 years from now,
Right.
what do you want Trinidad to look like?
to look like.
Because
Well-
remember, we're in a space where people vote on an increase in fixed assets.
Right.
So therefore,
right.
if I vote for you, how much big buildings you build
Well,
for
in
me?
terms
Correct,
of
And that's how they
in
compare.
terms
Yeah.
of the context of what we're talking about, the environment, right?
Mhm.
And what I want to see in Trinidad,
Yeah, environmentally,
Right.
yeah. Environmentally, what you
Like-
want to see in Trinidad.
there is so much richness in our natural habitats, the natural landscapes, right?
Mhm.
The forests
Mhm.
and the bush,
The
right?
bush.
As you say, the bush.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Recently, and Faraaz had a part to play in this scenario. There was going to be the demolition of, I believe it's No Man's Land, to put sandals,
Yeah.
and like that is an example.
That is a serious
that
one.
is
We
an
had to get
example,
into- we were
and that
getting
is
to
an
that just now.
example of like that is not the progress I see for us, because we have something which people from all over the world want and they
Matter of
don't have.
Yeah, I'm after
And
we getting to
they-
it now. Then.
They
We're
have,
getting to
they
it
have
now.
plenty. They have
Why-
plenty of
but,
these,
but
these
Sanders was
hotels
coming,
all over.
No, but Sanders was coming to give a world-class brand, right? Because Sanders known everywhere, right?
yeah.
So why not allow Sandals to come in a place where, in my mind, they is environmentally sensitive too, you know?
Yep.
All right?
That's also
And that's
Ramsar.
where,
Bonaccord
that's a
wetland
Ramsar
is a
one as
Ramsar
well. That's
site
right.
as
So
well.
you have, a very
Wait,
interesting...
wait.
Yeah,
But isn't the Ramazan side like an internationally understood place? Like
that's right.
Yeah,
don't-
right.
That's
But it's
right.
not. It's not like a legislation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
is
or.
more like a
So-
like a
so-
promise.
I
Yeah.
understand. I
So,
understand.
so let me give
it's
you...
like the oath you take when you're a doctor.
Yeah,
Where,
yeah,
like
yeah.
something about
Yeah.
your integrity
Yeah.
as a people and as a place.
but
and that
even
kind of
further
thing.
than that, because remember, Trinidad has also, and I mean, you want to be fair to Trinidad
Yeah.
too. Trinidad has come fairly far legislation-wise with environmentalism for a small island state.
Mhm.
So we have the EMA, we have the rules. When you are a Ramsar site, you have to do an environmental impact assessment,
Right, yeah.
Whereas in a lot of places you could get away with just a CEC, which is not that long. EIA normally takes like 2 to 3 years, where you have to, assess all baseline data, biodiversity, coastlines, all those things. And then with your proposed development, you have to do modeling and whatnot to then say, well, where it's going to become and prove that there is no real difference. That's sustainable development, right? People, planet, profit, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's finding that middle ground. But, some people from Tobago, I would say it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just chase away sandals. You know what I mean? The environment chased away sandals. Is that really progress?
Yeah, man. Run them out. Burn out that. Because what I say is, Faraaz, you take it away.
I am not completely against having sandals in Tobago.
Exactly.
I am totally against having sandals in Tobago over there.
How we get to sandals, though?
Right? How we get to there?
How we get to sandals?
In the conversation or in general with the country?
With the country, as in sandals is a developer.
You're right.
How we get to this one sandals? There are a million developers around the world.
Right.
That is just as powerful as sandals or more powerful.
Well,
we are in politics there.
I have heard stories, but at the end of the day, I have no proof. So I would choose not to repeat those stories. Right.
I mean, I would say bluntly, it was bacchanal. You know, so
it was underhanded.
It ought to have been, It ought to have been. You do your baseline environmental, do your baseline designs and whatnot, go out to tender.
You want to build a hotel.
All of us are just on the board.
Right.
That's madness.
You know
what I mean? So but tell me, so you're saying sandals, you don't have a problem with sandals?
I do have a problem with sandals. I have a problem with sandals in the Bonaccord Lagoon. Right? Because of the nature of the place. It's a stopover site for migratory birds. Right? It is a nursery for fish, crabs. They have a mangrove, seagrass, all of the things. There is a very, very unique habitat.
But it's free Clico lands though, so I mean.
But who really says that you own something?
Clico owns all that.
Especially nature.
Clico owns all.
Well,
but a lot of people don't know that entire area, and I think there's something with a partnership with Angostura or something.
Yeah.
They own all of that. So when they moved to divert, I mean, Clico wasn't easy, A lot of people didn't know how far the reaches of Clico was. So that was
I found out that later, and I was kind of shocked about it.
Yeah. The thing is that
but it comes back exactly to what you were saying, in that notwithstanding all the Clico and all of that, who gives them the right for this Ramessar site?
Again, money talks, bullshit works, whatever. Now, the thing is that when it comes to no man's land, sandals, it is now off the charts. It's not off the cards. It's not happening again.
Sandals.
It's not happening again.
They said they didn't.
But Sandals not interested in
right.
Sandals isn't interested anymore.
And I mean, they were hell bent on sandals, so that kind of puts a hold on the whole thing.
No,
but
they were going for some other people recently.
They were there's Cocoa Reef, there was Magdalena Grand, there's Grafton, there are all these other supposedly high class hotels that busting.
Right. That's
why
you're
not fixing that problem.
So let me get into that, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke about some of this before, where I'm gonna talk from a perspective of having done it, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing something like that, it's not the government paying. The government isn't gonna give Sandals, $1 billion and say, well, listen, you build. What they're going to do is give you, they're going to give you a lease to the land, and then you raise the financing and then charge back the government later on. So, but the problem with that is you have to do what they call project financing modeling.
Yeah.
When you do that, one of the things you have to do is to make a projection on your throughput, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing where you say that Magdalena, all of them bossing it hard, there are people coming in. What could any developer do to say, well, listen, I go in and get $1 million, because the cost of developing in that area going to require a Las Vegas level of foot traffic and turnover in order to make it feasible.
And that was not going to happen.
That was not going to happen.
That was not going to happen.
Not at all.
Because, yes, Sandals is an internationally recognized brand, but simple scenario, I am an American. I want to go to a Caribbean island, right? I know nothing about the Caribbean really, but I was hearing about it. What do? Just go to a travel agency, no, they'll do that. You want online to book your tickets. But what else? You go on TripAdvisor, right? You go on Booking.com, and then it have reviews, and it have this, and it have that. And then you also go and look at countries with problems and so on. People want to know where they're going.
Yeah.
Trinidad and Tobago don't really look too good in the grand scheme of things when it comes to like, you know.
No, yeah, I mean, we
certain
have
things
travel
that-
advisories out against
Yeah,
us.
they have
that
travel.
kind of thing,
So I
yeah.
mean, like, it is not like Tobago is going to be people first choice to come to our sandals when there's sandals everywhere else. I'm not saying they wouldn't have people,
That's right.
but
Yeah.
they will never have the
other-
foot traffic,
That's
as
right,
you
that's
say.
right.
The other issue with that I had is that the introduction of Sandals, which is a major hotel brand
Yeah.
that everyone knows, as they say, it have
Yes.
Sandals in Antigua, Jamaica,
Mhm,
wherever else. Tobago Tourism Authority was pushing and completely opposite image of Tobago.
Right.
They had Tobago Beyond, which was
Right.
unspoiled.
Right.
Untouched
Similar to
and
Pure Grenada.
undiscovered.
Yeah, Pure Grenada is
Right,
like that. Yeah, it's
because
that, yeah.
that is
yeah.
the appeal.
Yes,
That's
that
the
is the appeal.
People
You
leaving
want
first
to go
nations.
right. You want to go off the beaten track.
Right.
You want to get out of the city. You want to
Yes.
get out of the concrete jungle.
Right.
You want to go and
Exactly.
connect back
That's
with
right.
nature.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
You want to connect
Not
with
to
nature.
not to go in another concrete jungle.
So then, what is Trinidad's no man's land? Right. What is our? I mean, you mentioned Kubla Singh. That was hot down Mosquito
Yeah,
Creek
yeah,
down
yeah.
there, right? I mean, there's a lot of mangrove them fellas tearing down, right?
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
in Trinidad, we have a lot of things
Do
that
you
is like
know-
in our no man's land. When it comes to
Yeah.
violations
Yeah.
against nature,
Yeah. It's
it's
big,
happening
big.
right now. They want to build, what is a port in Toko?
Yeah. That's the thing where
Yeah.
Abdool went and tried to stop where they're clearing down that whole
Right,
forest.
right.
Right?
Calico.
Because you're passing through
Yeah.
Matura National
Yes.
Park.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Right, so let's pause this conversation
Yeah.
and I'll talk a little bit about Matura National
Yeah.
Park and in general our in this country our natural situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We were, as we was talking about, we were once part of South America.
Right.
Our country, Trinidad and Tobago, has a nice little mix of South American flora and fauna and Caribbean flora and fauna.
Right.
Because we are straddling the two.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have some things, some aspects that are reminiscent of the Caribbean,
Right.
and some aspects that are reminiscent of the mainland.
Right.
Right? Right. We are the only island in the Caribbean
Mm.
to have a predatory cat, which is the ocelot.
Oh shoot.
Right?
Okay.
We are
right,
the only
right,
island to
right.
have a
Yeah.
feline top predator.
Huh.
Right? That's our jaguar.
Right. You ever seen one?
Understand? I've never
I've
seen
never
one in
seen
the
one.
wild.
They talk about it down my way, but I never
Yeah,
seen
It's
one.
I've
endangered,
never
right?
seen one in the wild. I don't think it's endangered, like
It
officially.
seems to be endangered.
Okay, so all right. So that the first thing that happened, one of the first things that happened in this country, was one of the worst things that could have possibly happened for nature in
Right.
Trinidad.
Right.
Right? We built a road
Mhm.
that started in the west and ended in the east, which was that western main road,
Right.
east-west
Right.
corridor.
Right.
Along that road, we built up most of our
Yeah.
right, our
Central business
Housing
districts and
all
so
them
on.
thing,
correct, right? What that road did, which goes from Shagarama straight to Toko,
Mm.
right? That has separated the northern range
Right.
with the rest of the island.
Right.
There were animals before, because the
Yeah, they
animals
flourish in
do
the valleys.
right.
Yeah.
So they do different types of migration. You know about migration,
Yes,
where
yes,
birds will
yes,
fly
yes.
from the
Yeah,
north to the
yeah,
south
yeah,
and
yeah,
vice
yeah.
versa. Animals also do altitudinal migration, where they
Mm.
migrate in terms of altitude
Right.
depending on the season.
Nice.
So there'll be certain times a year they will go in the hills.
Right.
Certain times a year they will come in the lowland forest,
Mhm.
right? And that east-west corridor has cut off all migration of terrestrial animals.
Mhm,
Yeah?
mhm,
So
that's
no
right.
longer a deer could go up in the hills
Right.
and then come
right,
back
right,
down
right,
there,
right.
You know, like
That was just
suppose
part of the route.
male deer, the stags and them, like that would be their trek.
Yes,
you know, you have an
yeah, we go
initiation.
into the hills.
When
yeah,
you come
yeah.
off age and thing, you go
Yeah.
into the hills and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go up
yeah.
the hills, you go up top, you come back down, you come back
Mhm.
buff,
Yeah,
you come
yeah,
back
yeah.
ripped, and the antlers then it's like, I want a bull, right? You understand?
Yeah.
Like suppose that was their thing,
Yeah.
right? We don't know the kind of traditions that
Yeah,
animals
yeah,
used to
yeah.
have because animals had traditions.
Yes,
right?
yes.
We don't
yes,
understand their society.
Yes.
If
yes,
we
yes,
don't
yes.
understand their society, then how could we say they have no society?
So is is it that Matura Forest was like the anchor of that?
So that
lowland?
Matura National Park is one of the last untouched areas within the country, right? So
Right,
there's no like
right.
set of road, like even in the
Yeah.
northern range, you still have Arima Blanchishes Road and North Coast
Yes,
Road that
yes,
pass
yes,
through
yes,
the
yes,
forest.
Is
Right?
that where the turtles come on, so?
They come to
No, they come
Matura,
along
yeah.
Matura
Yeah,
Bay.
Matura
Come-
Bay, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
But they also come along the whole north coast
Right.
as well as the east coast, right? So
Right.
I remember seeing leatherback turtles in Manzanilla and Mayaro,
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, those beaches are unregulated,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the more turtles that are poached on the beaches, the less turtles that come back.
Yes,
in the
yes,
end,
yes, 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 yes,
right?
yes, yes,
So they have they're not really very popular turtle nesting
Right.
beaches.
yes. Right.
That leatherback turtle experience, you know,
So,
is one of something else.
so
Yeah, it's
right. So
legendary.
imagine, given the fact that there's already a shitty situation regarding the northern range being separated, right? If you think about it, every other patch of forest on this island is now a smaller island.
Right.
It's now, you could say, oh, we have Victoria Mayaro Forest Reserve and not real big. It's not big. It is not big. If you could drive from one end to the next end in less than half hour, pal, it ain't big now. That's real small, right? So everything is an island within an island, right? So the animals are facing pressure from all sides, which makes it worse. Hunting in Trinidad is different from hunting in Guyana,
Right.
because in Guyana there's
Right.
space for them to
Yeah, that's
run.
the backwater. The
Right?
backwater.
Guyana,
the
if it's
whole-
one thing they have is
yeah,
the
it's
bush.
huge. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
anywhere in the mainland,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're hunting there, you shoot a deer here today, right? The next day, it ain't gonna have no deer coming back there because they went somewhere else. Here we
And
shoot
they
a
had
deer
place to
here
go.
today, a deer tomorrow,
Right.
right? And a deer, because you can't, where you want
Yeah,
to run? You
nowhere
want
to
to run
go.
into the ocean on one side,
Yeah,
or you go run
yeah.
into
You know,
Rio
and I think
Claro on the
that's
next
something that
side.
people don't understand. And it's a very obvious thing. We are a very small island.
We are a very small
We are a
island.
small island. We can, and you see people who like to stay within a 5 mile radius and all the rest of the country south and so on. They are part of our problem too in a
Yeah.
way, because
Yeah.
we have this false sense that, you know, Trinidad have back at their places and things. Everywhere is one Trinidad really, and truly, because Trinidad is a small island. Yes,
Yes,
we have
yes,
developed
yes, yes.
areas,
Yeah.
but it's not a outback.
Yeah.
It's not the Amazon.
Well,
No.
So when
Yeah.
it is we cannot, like, you know, recognize this and
Yeah.
realize that every area, as he says, is a small little spot now where there's a habitat for something.
Yeah.
The more you go and you
It's
interfere
pressure,
with
it's pressure
Yeah.
from all
Yeah,
sides.
Pressures,
it
there's
is
environmental
all
pressures.
there's
sides.
a Ingaluk Bacchus casting
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
Oh, see, they were that
It's
thing
true.
again, but I forget.
Ingaluk, the new yam
Yeah,
yam.
the yam yams.
Yeah. That's what we do. And that was the whole height behind that.
Right. Yes.
You know?
Yes. I mean, it was
Listen,
powerful. I mean,
this is what we're doing. We
Yeah.
are the generation who grew up seeing that, and look
Yeah.
at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Are we really making a difference? Are we changing it?
So then let me ask you this: in 20 years, what sort of environmental development would you want in a place like Trinidad?
I want animals to be flourishing.
Right.
I want
Right. So
I
increase
want Trinidad.
biodiversity within the existing spaces.
I want Trinidad and Tobago to be a place of coexistence,
Mm-hmm.
right? In terms of we could coexist with each other,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we could coexist with nature,
Right.
right?
That's
And for
true.
people to understand that we are not made up of concrete.
Yeah.
We are not made of steel. Understand? When we dead and we buried or we burn or whatever,
Yeah.
we are organic material. We are
Right.
still organic material.
Right.
We are part of the earth,
Yeah.
right? We're not apart from it.
Yeah, exactly.
We are
That
part of it,
connectedness.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in 20 years, I want this country to be made up of people with a
Yeah.
connection,
So
with a
should we be
connection to
greener?
nature.
Should we be greener?
Of course, we should be greener. The cities should be greener, right? I
Less
think that
erosion on the coast.
well, that will come from all we have to do is to reforest,
Yeah.
reforest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Have some kind of legislation where you get tax breaks for the number of trees on your property, right? If you have a hog plum tree and a immortal or this and that, you putting that on a tax form now.
Yeah.
Right, I have
so
a
you
so and so and
incentivize
so.
that. Yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
because people is listening to money.
And I think bringing an economic perspective of the journey is important, because we're living in a place where green fund was mortgaged out
Yeah.
from what I understand. You understand? So it was
Yeah.
actually used as collateral for them to borrow money for more development. So
Yeah.
that creates a situation where it tells you, well, what really is your priorities? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of, and it'll come more and more in the show as we do more shows. It comes down to self belief. We had to believe in ourselves and
Yeah.
understand that, you know what I mean? That 25% you get in tax, they have your money.
Yeah.
Is your money they have. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, um, this isn't a divide thing. This is a, you in governance, you ought to be held to account. You understand what I'm saying? And, you know, eventually we want to segue, you know, into something like that. But I also want to bring it back to a couple of the shots that you had taken. You have the elephant, Mario.
Oh, remember we were talking about the macaw.
Yeah, so
How did
just,
the macaw, like, you said it spoke to you, like, how did it speak
yeah,
to you?
so
I always
right.
like to know this now.
So I see, like, if I had to title that, I would title it The Dance of Life.
Dance of life, yeah.
Dance of Life. And you know, you captured it. I mean, is that what you were looking for in it, or you just, you know, this was the highest vibes you get from two of them?
But when I go in nature, generally, I go with no expectations. I have things that I want.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really like a shot of this bird or so on. So,
Yeah,
so we went looking for the macaws, and obviously wanted to see them.
yeah,
And but if you have no expectations, or you have
Yeah.
low expectations, you're
Yeah.
always gonna be pleasantly surprised.
yeah.
Right? So it's like I ain't gonna.
Allow that
You start
magic
at
to,
zero.
yeah.
Alright, you start at zero. So when
Yeah.
you know,
And I mean, this was the
experience
one that
something.
spoke to me locally. Just pull up the elephant there, Mario. Because a lot of people don't know. I mean, you went to Kenya. I mean, when I was
Yeah.
like, Jesus, man. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
it was magical.
I look at this,
Yeah.
and I mean, I's a I's a skeptic fella.
Yeah.
So I's a man to see mafia and everything. So I look at this and I would say, this is good enough to be a National Geographic sort of thing. Yet I get a sense that National Geographic photographers is a sort of mafia. If you
Yeah.
wanted to get into that, how would you go about something like
We apply like a, you know, this because it's a
that?
job.
So it's like a job.
Right, it is a
Right.
job, right? So you have to apply, you have to have
Right.
a portfolio, you have to
Mm.
have a body of work, you have to be a
Right.
registered, not a registered, or like a locally recognized photographer in your country.
Right.
A bunch of different things now.
Right. So you can't like just sell that picture to them, because I mean I look at this and I see so much personality in this
Yeah.
elephant. Like, it's just this
You
young
see the
thing.
expression,
You see the expression,
you
and
see
it's like,
innocence, right?
yeah, and you
Yeah.
talk about I can't imagine what it would be like to see an elephant in a room.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like I
I
have
know you will
so,
cry.
you know what I mean? I have so
Yeah.
much respect for elephants because it's a wisdom animal, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I
yeah.
mean? It's such a powerful animal. And I look at this and I look at the title of your post. So this was Samburu National Reserve. Where's
Correct,
that in
yeah.
Kenya?
That's Kenya's a huge place,
Right.
but it's kind of like in the middle almost.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Samburu is a relatively remote area, right? So there are a
right.
few nature reserves and that kind of thing there.
And that bush is
And-
like bush down here? The same kind of bush?
Nah, it's Samburu is like
Thick.
it's not that thick. It's like grassland, scrubland,
Right.
you know,
Plains.
lowland forest,
Right.
right? So you have trees there, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say from here, growing up in forest and thing, I always took heart of the fact that we only had 2 poisonous snakes.
yeah.
So I
yeah.
always tell people, listen, I would never go Australia because of
Yeah,
the amount
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing that could kill you. When you go in that forest, I mean, ain't gonna jump out on you anytime. I mean,
Well, yeah, I
that
didn't
fear
want to step
doesn't-
on like a Gabon viper or anything like that, you know.
But this place, it's a reserve,
Yeah,
right?
it is a reserve. So,
So there's a
and
lot of control in
Right.
terms of
in Kenya and in other places that I've been to national parks were a huge deal.
Right,
National
Right.
parks are a huge deal.
right.
In
So
the
that's like
States,
their Ramessar
they have
site.
there's even more than that. These things are celebrated. Right? National parks are celebrated. There's a whole national parks initiative in the States.
things we're
Right.
not
Where
accustomed
they-
to here now, bro.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
encourage
yeah,
people
yeah.
to go out and enjoy nature responsibly.
Right,
Right?
right.
Here
right,
as
right.
well in Samburu there was, and in other places in Kenya we went to, any national park
Yeah,
is celebrated. It's
Yeah.
regulated.
right.
So at the entrance to the park
Yeah.
You have to leave your name, your ID number, whatever. There's a national park fee
Right,
that,
right, right.
that you pay
Right,
to enter. And you go in and you observe the wildlife,
right.
right? So suppose we did something like that, and guess
Right.
what? In Kenya, there's no hunting for sport.
Hmm.
No sport hunting is allowed of any kind.
Right, right.
In the nation.
Because there
in-
is
in
some
the
parts of
nation.
Africa that allows it. Because I remember there was
Yeah.
this issue that was enraged.
So it is illegal.
Right, but
Yeah.
there is some places where there was this dentist
Yeah,
that
yeah,
hunted the
Cecil.
lion, Cecil, and
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I was so enraged when I saw
Because
that.
I mean, as a wildlife photographer, and you want to go to certain places, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lion called Scar in the Masai Mara in
Right.
Kenya, right, which is
Okay.
a little bit north of this.
Right,
Um,
right.
And well, Scar getting old now,
Right.
but like he was involved in a fight and he was small.
Right.
and so
Right.
one of his eyes, if you could pull up Scar Masai Mara, right?
MASSEI.
MASIA, yeah, Scar Masai
Yeah.
Mara.
Let's
See
put
if you
up
could get an
images.
image or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
This guy is
Watch him
a
there, watch him there.
Yeah, on the right.
he's an iconic lion.
Was Scar from Lion King named after the Scar, or is it vice versa?
This lion would not be more than 10 years old.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so right.
well,
Yeah.
it's a lovely coincidence because Scar from Lion King is a big star in the
Right.
cartoon, and then
Yeah.
he has the scar
So
as
this,
well.
right,
so,
and this is also a black, like a more black maned lion.
Yes.
Right? So the
yes,
black
yes.
maned lions actually have higher levels of testosterone.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay,
like
okay, okay,
they're
okay.
real bad now.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, if
Like,
you
don't
look
drive
at
there
this
with your
man,
windows down.
he dread now.
Yeah.
He real dread, but now
You-
he kind
Did
of
you
getting
see
on
Scar?
age. I didn't see him. I really wanted to see him,
Yeah,
but we didn't
yeah,
go to
yeah.
Masai
That's where you're
Mara.
going at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
But
what
I
I'm
mean,
saying
yeah.
is that like, so like with Cecil the lion, Cecil was also a black maned lion, right? Which made him a big target for a trophy hunter.
Right.
But was he in a protected
But
area?
he was in a protected area,
Mm.
but he was lured out of the protected area
Oh.
by people putting meat.
Yeah.
People put meat because this
Yeah, it's
man
real low
paid
level
off
kind
people.
of. Yeah, real
right?
low level
Yeah.
kind
And
of
you know,
thing.
you see, it's
Above
like
all, above all.
it's a ball,
Yeah.
but it comes from a high-ranking dentist
That's right.
in a first world country.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
where it
It's a
originated.
real clique.
Yeah.
Yeah, real
Yeah,
aristocrat
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
so like
It's a
just
whole
as how I know
different mindset.
Scar here, you know Cecil.
Yeah, the
There's a line that
personality,
many
mm.
people follow.
Yeah,
Cecil
yeah,
would
yeah.
have a pride.
Yeah,
He would
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
children,
Yes,
right?
yes.
They have lives that they live in,
Mhm,
right? And
mhm,
one day, so what happened when Cecil died now,
mhm.
right? Cecil I think he was leading a pride as a coalition, because
Mhm.
lions do that,
Right,
right? Yeah, you know a lion pride, single lion, a set of lionesses, and a
Yes.
bunch of cubs, whatever.
Yes,
and like,
yes.
that my pride,
Yeah,
whatever. Lions have also formed coalitions. So you have like multiple males,
Right,
sometimes like
right.
two brothers or two
Right,
cousins or something.
right.
They would take control of a pride, man,
Hmm.
right? And it allows them to have bigger prides,
Mm.
right? And occupy bigger territories.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So Cecil, I think, was a co-leader of a pride. And when
Mm.
he got killed,
Right.
right, that other lion was unable to defend the pride.
Mm.
And
Wow.
you know what's happened when that?
Yeah.
All the cubs just die.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
the new lions
Yeah.
would then kill off all of the other
And
older
it's called them a
cubs.
pride
you
for
know.
a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
And because we humans
Yeah.
will bring them to that kind of shame. now.
Yeah.
And they deal with the lions and their pride.
It's a fickle balancer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just so on the edge. So it's like when humans come with that greed, with that mentality, it just
We're
pushes things.
we're pushing everything beyond, right?
Yeah.
So like, okay, so in Kenya they don't have any hunting, right?
Right.
But aside from the poaching issue or whatever,
Mm.
what if in Trinidad and Tobago we outlawed hunting
Mhm.
totally,
Mhm.
right? And we trained hunters,
Mhm.
whoever applies.
Mhm.
They have a program saying, here what now? If you're a hunter, a former hunter, you can register with this program and become a tour guide leader for wildlife viewing.
Right.
Because
right,
I'll
right,
tell
right.
you, even as somebody who's been in the bush,
Mhm.
there's nobody who knows the bush
Yeah,
and forest
better
better than a hunter.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right?
agreed.
Hunters
And you give
know
them a new value.
everything.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
So some of the best conservationists that I've known,
Mhm.
right, were formerly hunters.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
right,
they know the animals really, really well. man.
Mhm.
Um,
Even Winston father,
Yeah,
when son
right,
and father
correct.
was a hunter,
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
said.
Yeah, in Tobago there's a wildlife reserve called Corbin's Local Wildlife, run by
Mm.
Roy Corbin. Roy Corbin was a former hunter.
Right.
Now he's a
Mm.
conservationist and he helps
Mhm.
animals, he rehabs the animals and things.
So there's a proven track record of the fact that even the hunters, without being incentivized, they have turned.
Right.
So what if you
What
made
if
that
you are
they're
incentivized,
devised?
right?
Yeah.
So,
And that we're saying is the role of government. That is something where
Right.
you have that,
right?
you know.
So
Vision,
you outlaw the
vision.
Yeah.
hunting, right? You introduce these new incentives and promise,
Mhm.
make a pledge to your people that we are going to develop this, right?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
could the government is also in a sitting in a place of power where they could facilitate the import of
Mhm.
certain
Mhm.
things such as animals for
Right,
stock,
right.
import
right.
red brocket there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And let it go through necessary quarantine and all of that kind of thing. Import colored peccary,
right.
which is quenk or wild hog.
Right.
When last you see quenk selling,
Yeah, true.
how much
true,
quenk
true,
it
true.
really has.
Yes,
Right? Quenk
yes.
have been disappearing left, right, and
Yeah.
center because quenk or colored peccary,
Mhm.
as they're actually called, they are extremely social animals. And they've
Mm.
actually been observed making like funerals,
Hmm.
right? And like little rituals, like traditions that these
Mm.
animals have in South America where they observe them,
Wow.
right, from trail cams,
Right.
Traditions, eh?
right?
Right.
So we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know anything
Yeah,
about these
yeah.
animals.
And the
boy.
thing is, it's like, what are the authorities waiting on now?
Mhm.
Because we are an island. We're a
Mm.
Caribbean island. They have banked on carnival for so long.
Mhm.
And carnival in itself, when it becomes this determining factor for our identity,
Where do they get the
Right.
feathers from?
the feathers for I
For
just
carnival?
it's,
Is it
it,
synthetic?
it had to be synthetic.
Now it's synthetic, I think, but
Yeah.
they were traditionally real feathers.
Traditionally, they
I
were
always
real.
wondered that.
I'm guessing
Yeah.
they get from everything is important.
It's
dirt
only
cheap.
recently. It's
Our
only
carnival
recently
cost you
became
probably costs
synthetic, I
less
think.
than $500 probably to put together, and it costs $6,000
Yeah.
to put on.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing is that we have totally overlooked this whole part of our identity as an island.
Mm-hmm.
That is a no-brainer that people come to these parts of the world for.
Yeah.
Yes, we have carnival. Yes, carnival has its pros and its cons,
Right.
right? But again, sustainability, balance.
Yeah.
As a people, when we are defined only and solely by that kind of
Mm.
tourism,
Yeah.
that is what's bleeding into our psyche.
But-
We do not care about the land.
Yeah.
We do not care
Yeah.
about the wildlife.
Yeah.
We do not care about the nature. We do not care about the beaches. We do
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
hold it in high esteem. We treat it like shit,
Yeah.
trash everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
But let me still say this, that, and I'll segue into the politics, right? That I know quite a few friends of mine, and I mean eventually probably get them on the show as well, that die-hard environmentalists. You know what I mean? They would have been some of the people originally involved in the coastal cleanup and all those
Right.
kind of things. And so then what that tells you is that the issue is a dichotomy. There's a dichotomy between these people who have that drive to make things, to have environmental progress,
They're outnumbered.
and the politicians, right? So the question is, how do you get politicians to do that? Because it's all about meeting our minds. I mean, we want to be mature about it, right? So it's meeting our minds. What inspires a politician? Let's be real, right? So let's get in. What inspires
Yeah.
a politician? Is it as simple as votes every 5 years?
Yeah, I think
Well,
I think you could boil down to
Trinidad,
that,
yeah.
right?
Right.
It's, if for them it's numbers,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, right, the politicians over the years have changed.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah,
The
politicians
people
just
have
are-
changed,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
the politician
That's right.
has not changed.
So
The politician still is the politician.
That's right. That's right. So to me, what I look at is that politicians are influenced
Yes.
by the development of fixed assets. And the development of those fixed assets, if it goes to the right people, right, then the politician all for it, right? So then here's the question I would ask. Can certain conservation infrastructure be designed in such a way
Yeah.
where it's a big enough infrastructure project that the government could fund, whereby they will want, it'll be a big, it's a big fixed asset then.
Yeah.
It's a big thing that they could say, listen, we did this.
Right. Well, that's what I think is that something like that requires passion and vision. We have the passion and vision in terms of the individuals who do care about the environment and so on. Well, as you said, you have the diehard environmentalists.
Right,
and so on. We have the few. They're outnumbered by the masses that don't really care. But it's not to say that it's unheard of that we can have these initiatives.
Yeah, sure.
But the thing is, right? It will be a creation. It will be something new. Okay, it is not something tested.
Right.
Because we haven't done
Right.
things like this before.
Right.
Where we have this, big scale conservation,
Right.
reserves or whatever you want to call it, right?
But we have national parks, eh?
We have national parks.
We have national parks. They are already existing.
Right,
Right.
but we don't
The
have.
legislation is already there.
Right, but we do not have
We don't have the
mentality now.
Right.
Right? The problem is with politicians that they operate on numbers.
Right.
Right? And what to change, to elicit some kind of positive change, we as a people need to convince the politicians that we
Exactly.
are now the majority.
Right.
And even if we are not the majority right now, within a few years, we are going to be the majority. So it's either you're with us now and you're riding wave,
Right.
or you're against us and you eventually
You'll-
just become
you'll-
obsolete.
Right, you
Right.
lose power.
Yeah.
The politician wants power.
Right.
To gain that power, as you say, you need the vote.
Right.
You
Right.
need the favor of the people.
Right.
You have to please the people.
Right.
As I was saying, as I mentioned it a few minutes ago, people who care about the environment are outnumbered by those who do not.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now, the sad thing is that the politician knows better
Right.
in terms of their education and in terms
Right.
of their understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But they are pleased
Mm-hmm.
to settle
Mm-hmm.
and say, well, people don't really care about this, so
Right.
why should we? Because
Right.
because then what they have to do is go through, first they would have to go through an initiative to educate,
Right.
to sensitize,
Right.
right? To incentivize.
Right.
It is a serious vision.
Yeah.
It is not rocket science. It is not unheard of, right? We are here talking about it, right? We are not politicians.
Right.
There are other people like us. We are in a minority in terms of how we deal with these issues, as you can see from how the country is treated in
Yeah.
terms of our natural habitats and so on,
Yeah.
our nature. My
Yeah.
point being that the sad thing about it is that the politician, in his quest and concern for power,
Mm-hmm.
does not care to lift
Yeah.
the psyche of the
Right.
people because he does not have to.
So.
You understand?
So
He
then
does
let
not
me-
have to because
Yeah.
we live in a country where people do not give a shit about the
Right.
environment. They
Right.
do not care about the wildlife.
Right.
They do not care about pollution.
Right.
They don't care about recycling. I mean, we
Yeah.
are taking baby steps in all directions, but it's
Yeah.
very, very baby steps.
Yeah.
The world has,
it's
other
not-
places
it's
have
not- it's
moved
not
past this.
coordinated.
It's not coordinated. It is
Right.
not because our mindset is not there, our mentality is not there.
But then-
Because we don't
right.
have to.
Yeah.
It also is a spillover, a bleed over of our whole oil and gas.
Right.
We
But-
did everything on a
yeah,
silver platter,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
But then let me carry it this way. So it's almost two options we're giving the government.
Yeah.
There's a militant option, which we're going to talk about just now on Greta and what they would have done. And there's a peaceful option. And the peaceful option in my mind is I am not going to ask the government. I'm not going to put that on them. I want these bits of conservation infrastructure. So it could be things like, shoring up the coastlines in some areas, increasing biodiversity in certain specific parks, creating conservation centers, creating seaquariums, and not seaquariums like the what was it?
SeaWorld.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Just seaquariums like l'Oceanographique or University of Plymouth's aquarium, where they actually increase the biodiversity of
Yeah.
their ocean and monitor their marine ecosystem, and it's
Yeah.
tied to university. So there's people who do biochem and things who actually have jobs now because you're going in and you're taking care of these really sensitive things. And the question is, to a politician, so you're saying, listen, you want this. So I call 4 projects there, right? From my experience, I would say those 4 projects would be about $1 billion TT, right? So I would say around 200 million US, right? You ask any politician that, they will tell you, well, Green Fund gone, You gonna give me the money? Where you gonna get the money from?
Yeah.
So I want to carry the discussion. Remember, it's from facts to truth, right? So you want to carry the discussion further, right? The Queen Alma Jordan International Airport, and this was when I went last year to a financing conference. The Queen Alma Jordan International Airport cost, I think it's 1.3 billion euros, right? 1.3 billion euros. They had a very sensible and specific group of people who provides infrastructure financing, right? So I asked, of course, I'm from the island. Who's you? You know what I mean? Well, I have some projects. I want people to come and invest. They say, well, yeah, all we want you to do is create a series of bankable projects. I say, well, what do you mean by bankable? And then you get into things like project risk and finance risk, how to hedge it. And there are different ways to do that within the design of a structure itself. It could be as simple as, okay, we have a road going from east to west. You create a conservation park around that on either side, but you do it as a toll road. You know, so on the toll then pays over 30 years for something of that scale. Similarly with the seaquariums and that kind of thing. So for someone to say, you don't have money, that ain't good enough for me.
Of course not. Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
right? And I'm saying that many people talk about it. I'm telling the reality today.
Yeah.
You understand why I
No,
say
when you
that?
see the money getting pelled behind something else.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you
In
tell
the
me I didn't
same
have money
breath,
for this, so what going on there?
After you hear an administration, whichever one it be, talk in a defeatist way about one thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Whether it be in a press release or in Parliament,
yeah.
when they have their bacchanal back and
Yeah.
forth, and you
Yeah.
watch the Parliament channel and you hear when things are dismissed
can't-
and the
I
joint
can't
select
stomach
committees
it.
talking
I
about
can't
X, Y, Z,
stomach
and it's
Yeah.
going in
I do,
circles,
I do.
and it's going in circles, and then bam, you'll hear so and so much million going towards a soca cruise. Not saying at all.
Wait,
You
the
know,
government paying for that?
there was a cruise, a Trinidadian like Caribbean white cruise. I think it was initiative of the
That's
government
Uber?
and
That's
so on.
Uber?
Huh? No.
Okay.
No.
Like, wait.
That's not mixing them together.
Wait.
It was in the news in 2015, 16 around there.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying at all that's a bad thing. I'm saying, okay, so what are we saying at all? We don't have any money at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
But all of a sudden we have the money for this. We can't do X, Y, Z, but then we can do this. And I mean, it's all about, prioritizing, and it's all about, the fact that as it stands right now, they take the public for fools, so they do what they want. That's what it is.
And that's not unique here. That
No,
happens
no,
everywhere.
not at all.
Once you
Of
have
course,
democracies, that's one of the drawbacks of democracies, right? Which is that, you could say your taxpayers' money is X billion, and, they will want to spend that out of the treasury. Rather than, hey, no project financer does that. Use that to raise more capital to then give a higher impact. But of course, that would only happen if you care. You understand what I say?
And
of
that's my
course.
thing.
But you know what I
Care.
mean? That care is there.
Why should I care?
Yeah.
That's what the politicians
So-
really say to themselves. I realize that they don't care.
Right. So
So
then
why
that-
should they care?
Right.
Why should they care?
And I mean, I could tell you I sat in a couple of them, right? With the parliamentarians, right? I mean, them fellas is madness,
Yeah,
That
yeah.
these fellas running, you know what I mean? But Plato also talk about that. So you see, it's a kind of double-edged thing towards us, you know what I mean? Basically that if you don't get into, you can pull it up there, Mario, Plato on governments, basically if you don't want to get into politics, right? And he spoke about that. Governed by fools. So just go Plato, governed by fools, and you'll see.
As a coach, right?
There's a quote, right? So the thing is now, if it is, you go and listen to what these people saying. The question, right, there it is. So one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Isn't that the thing, though?
And
Because
that's the
we
thing.
we look at the politics and it's like, Dread, me going through that.
Yeah,
what am I
yeah,
mad
yeah,
about?
yeah.
Me going through
So
that.
many brilliant people
And,
out
and
here.
then these
Yeah.
people
But
come and
they-
take the position.
They are not
that-
concerned with being in the politics. And the thing about the politicians we have, many of them are qualified in their specific areas. Some of them are qualified in areas that don't have anything to do with what they're doing right now, which is kind of weird.
Agreed.
But
I mean, it's our work.
here's a walk.
It's our work.
And the
So I
thing
mean,
is, right?
you on yellow or you on red. Once
We
you
have-
wave the flag, I could get our walk.
We
Yeah.
That's
have
what it is.
we have a populace and an
Yeah.
electorate
Yeah.
that and a issue of brain drain and so on.
Right.
We have a people where our brilliant minds,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have a culture that does not allow for the most brilliant mind to be looked at as a future politician.
Right.
When I went to Naprima College,
right.
you, and you were there,
Yes,
you
yes,
were
yes.
there.
All of
right?
us here. All of you is now.
Funny enough, we didn't make like
The
that
room
earlier. I
blue,
didn't
yeah.
realize that.
The room
right?
blue right now.
Oh, yeah, Mario.
Right.
Big up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you straight out that during my time at Naprima College, there was never that mindset
Yeah.
within students that someone wants to be a politician
That's right. That's
or
right.
or vocal about
That's
it.
kinda
There
your
was never
fallback. Yeah.
never that mindset
Yeah.
that someone who is smart is a
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
president
Yeah.
or future prime
If
minister
you're
or
a
future
s-
minister.
Yeah, if you're a smart man.
Everything was about, well, them fellas. First and foremost, enough science was the main thing.
That's right.
And when you're
That's
doing
right.
science, it's because you're going to be a
That's
doctor or engineer.
Which
right?
we had to talk about at some
Right?
point in time about
Right?
education and,
And-
the balance of
And
education.
and
right?
then the system. So you're looking at, and I'm not saying that how people who go into politics are dumb,
Right.
right?
Right.
I am saying that.
No, I
we do
think
not-
they're very
we-
smart. They're
yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
intentional
Yeah,
and know
yeah.
what
do
they're
not-
doing and why they're doing it.
But in a way, our most brilliant minds in terms of really heavy academia and thing, and people who really clicking on certain cylinders, they do not get into the run-ins of our country,
Right.
right? Much
So
to
is
our,
it- so
and
is
that
it-
is to our demise
Right,
many
so is
times.
it that their
But it's not.
information-
But that is the fault of the fact that our mindset is
Right.
such that we do not we as people who went to
Yeah.
a school that the
yeah.
mindset of the students there most
Yeah.
of the time is such that nobody sees themselves
Yeah.
wanting to do that. And
Yeah.
also we value only in that school I know for sure science was
That's right, that's right,
it's
that's
all
right.
about science.
Yeah.
You know, so when it comes to modern studies and
Yeah,
now
yeah.
start a culture of
That's right.
producing
That's right.
theatricians
Yes,
and lawyers and all these things,
Yeah.
those things were pushed to the side
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of this
yeah,
this
yeah.
science race. And my point being that even with all that science background and everything and all that knowledge, we and
Is it
across all these schools in
Yeah.
Trinidad and Tobago
Yeah.
where we have
Is it
brilliant
lost
brilliant
on society?
it is lost.
So in other words, so enter the heights room.
Yeah,
You understand what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
That is
yeah.
what we. I
Of
mean, we
course.
had to bring some of them back. I mean, you talk about the the guys that going abroad that certain specific level of research. I mean, I tell you, I just talked to Brethren over there, and we were talking about time, and the concept of time, and Hawkins' original papers, and where we reach now, and what's the next step, and the people need to hear he. You know what I mean? The people need to hear he,
Yeah.
and,
That is
and,
why-
and there's so much
That
more
is why
like that.
we're creating this platform
That's right.
and this space.
But then let me say this. From all of what you say, because remember at the end of the show we leave people with hope. We leave people on a
Yeah,
high,
yeah,
right? Because it's heights room, right? Is it then that the only option we have with politicians for the environment is militant?
Well, all right. So I think a couple of things, right?
Now I want
People
Gary
are-
Griffith come and lock you up here because
No,
every
no.
monetizing militant.
Yeah.
Come on.
Mission.
No, I think I feel that
Rasta
before we
man.
even before we even get to there, right?
Mm.
About being militant or whatever,
Yeah.
right? We also have to understand that people are weak-willed for the most part, right? And a lot of Trinidadians, Trinis in general, are very weak-willed.
What do you mean by weak?
Weak-willed in that is that it's far easier to just fall into
Right.
a
Yeah.
a comfort
A
zone,
comfort zone, yeah.
right?
A niche.
right? And not try to change anything,
Right.
right? So the people who can change, as you were
Mm.
talking about, with regarding progressive thinking,
Yeah.
right, cutting edge ideas,
Right.
all of that sort of thing, they is like a thing of self-preservation,
Right.
right? So
Right,
even
right.
for me, do I take my craft abroad
Right.
and see about myself,
Right.
where
Right.
the
right.
value system abroad is so different from here,
Yeah.
right? Because I'll tell you one thing, because
That's
I
the
also
reality.
write.
Yeah.
I also
As a
write about
reality.
birds and conservation
Okay,
issues and
nice,
that sort of thing,
nice,
right? So
nice.
I write for a local paper,
Mhm.
and I get on average about 50 cents per word.
Hmm.
Right, that's how it kind of works out, average cost.
Mhm.
And I also I do a piece for a North American publication,
Mhm.
and I got paid 75 cents a word,
Hmm.
but that's 75 cents US,
Yes, true.
right?
And I mean, we want to talk about that on one of these
So,
shows as well. That currency
the
is a
value
macroeconomic
difference
situation.
is
It's you know,
yeah.
people say 6.81. It's
And
not that.
when
No,
you
it's
have
It's
beyond.
not that. It's
It is
different.
beyond currency, and
Yeah.
That's
this my
right.
point is that
Mm.
is that the value
Yeah.
that they put in other countries on the environment is so
Mm.
much more here
Yes.
than the value that we put on it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And on
Yes.
critical
Yes.
thought and what you're doing and writing
Right.
and so on.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
There's
You know,
value
so-
on that. There's
And
value.
then that was predicated by the education system, as you were talking about just
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
In NAPS, as we were in NAPS,
Mm.
if you're bright, you're doing science.
Mhm.
If you're a little less bright, you're doing this. If
Yeah.
you're even less bright, you're doing that. And if you're
Mhm.
dunce head, you're doing this next thing,
Mhm.
right? And they're putting you in,
Yeah.
they're putting you in slots,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
rather
that
than
system,
acknowledging the value of you
Of
being at
you.
the top of your field in
Yeah.
in whatever
in
you
what
want,
Exactly.
you
whatever-
want
yeah.
to do,
That's right.
because
Yeah.
you cannot control how a plant grows.
That's
now.
right.
You
That's
can't
right.
control where a branch would sprout. You
Yeah.
understand? So what I'm saying is that if somebody was really bright in school in our year or whatever,
Yeah.
and they really like farming
Yeah.
and they really like agriculture,
Yeah.
well, I like plant and garden,
Mhm.
right? But
It's
the
hard,
boy or
eh?
the girl is brilliant,
Yeah.
right?
No, but
What are the parents likely
Yeah.
to say?
yeah. No.
Oh, you're bright,
yeah,
but do
that-
science now, but you
yeah,
get a doctor and you get out of
yeah,
this poverty, boy.
yeah.
And right
Now he's
now-
a doctor and you
right
can't
now
even
every
go in the
get work.
grocery. You
Yeah,
can't
work.
get work. You
Yeah.
can't get nothing in the supermarket, and you don't know how to grow your own fireball food.
No,
Right?
well, let me get
So,
into that.
If somebody who
Yeah.
was so bright was actually encouraged to do agriculture,
Yeah.
think about the level of innovation
Innovation, yes.
that we could have had in
Yeah.
the agricultural
And it's
sector
only-
in this
yeah,
It's
country.
only in
Yeah.
pockets now you see a little young person who has a little vision doing something like a hydroponic farm
Yeah.
and so on.
Well,
But
the herpetologist friend that we carried the
Yeah,
iguanas by
yeah,
today,
Mhm.
he is my greens man.
Right.
Right? I buy
Mm.
greens from him every week. I get
Mm.
in all my kale, all my mustard
Yeah.
greens,
I'm
shard,
glad you
everything.
define it. Yeah.
I get in it right
Yeah.
there because
For us,
he
yeah.
went to
Yeah,
NAPS
define the
also.
greens
Yeah,
now,
he
you
He
know?
went to
Naps
NAPS
man as well,
also, and he was
Okay,
of
okay,
some
okay.
years above us.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right,
And
At the
he
early
is-
phase, he has to be a
He's
older
doing,
generation. Yeah.
he's doing
Mm.
this
Yeah.
kind of thing.
For us, let me
Brilliant
just, let me
fella.
just tell it to ask you to briefly touch on something, and as your own personal journey,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a little bit. You were a science student in
Yes.
in high
Yeah.
school.
So I
You
fell
went
into
on-
the trap now.
Yeah, you went
Mm.
on
I
to
fell into the trap.
to do tertiary education,
Mhm.
electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you're a graduate. You also on a scholarship to go to tertiary level education, right?
Yeah.
Um,
National School
And
2003.
you do not
yeah.
you do not
Well, it's a long time ago.
work as a engineer.
Yeah.
You are a environmentalist. You're a photographer. You're a writer. It would not have been as I say, a logical move when people look at you. They say, "Well, how he end up there?"
Mhm.
Explain a little bit, generally about that whole journey.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, I always like animals, right?
Mhm.
I always loved that kind of thing. But as you get on in years in your academic career, my parents,
Mhm.
they started to look at the slots
Yeah.
that are
Mhm.
available
Yeah,
Right.
for
limited
me to
slots
fit
to
in,
try and take,
right?
yeah.
Based on what I was good at in school,
Mhm.
right? And when I was in school, I was good at math,
Mhm.
right? I used to make high
Yeah,
in
you
math.
do maths with a maths fizz. You was in my
Right.
brother class. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was in Big Up Koof, man.
Yeah.
I was doing good in maths. I
Mhm.
was doing good in like physics and that kind of
Mhm.
thing, and I was doing quite shit in
Mhm.
other things, like
Mhm.
even literature and
Yeah,
geography and
yeah.
even IT and that kind of thing. I was just
Mhm.
doing shit.
Yeah.
So I just happened to be good in maths
Mhm.
and ended up. Well, when it's time for A levels now, I
Mhm.
was like, well, I'm just gonna do maths further, maths physics, because that is
Mhm.
essentially just maths and physics,
Yeah.
which is the two subjects I was good at.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And well, GP.
Right.
But
yeah.
writing is something that always came naturally to me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I'd always like, actually, I found a little paper from when I was like 10 years old,
Right.
and
Right.
it had saved the Grenada dove and how it endangered And what? I
10
read some
years.
kind of heights in it, boy. Conservation for preservation of the environment or some kind of thing like that. Stop the quarrying in San Fernando Hill. That's a little part, boy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right? And I was
Is
youth.
that what caused it?
I
Like
was
San
youth.
Fernando Hill. That raise is that quarry? Yeah? That caused
yeah,
that shit.
that's 1/3
That's
the
not
size
that's
it
not
was.
in that's not in natural.
No, that was 3 times that size, dog.
They quarry up that scene. Man.
Yeah, and that
San
that
Fernando Hill, you know, the
San Fernando
epicenter
Hill was
of the city of San Fernando.
dread what our Indians used to come across until maybe like last night, some 19 something. They used to come across on a canoe from South America and go to Sando Hill.
Pilgrimage to Sando Hill.
Yeah, pilgrimage, man. Tribes
San
were
Holy
walking
Ground.
and thing
Right.
by King's Wharf.
So you always had a
Yeah.
love for the
So I
environment.
always enjoy nature, you know. So eventually, you know, you try to say, well, all right, you know, I'm doing maths further, maths physics. It was honestly came naturally to me as well. Did skull.
You was a
Alright.
scout by the way too, eh?
Yeah.
Come
so, so then when I finish and I graduate now, it's like, well, what are my options?
Right,
Right?
right.
Either be an engineer or be a
Yeah.
teacher.
Right.
And my father was like, well, if you be an engineer, you get more money.
Right.
So, you know, and he was an engineer also.
Right,
And he
right,
said,
right,
you know,
right.
he could help me along the way and whatever.
Yeah.
I know for them for making that, you know, like saying them
Yeah.
things
They want the
because
best for you.
good
Yeah.
intentions.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
intentions.
Just like the with the
right?
cat.
Yeah.
Just like
Feed
with
the
the cat.
cat.
Yeah.
Good intentions, right? But the road to hell was paved with good intentions. Yeah, they
Right.
say.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's how I today.
Yeah, so like I was essentially denying myself
Right.
who I was, right? And I was just doing this thing, and I say, all right, I'll try it out. And then I'm working for these companies and thing, and I realize these companies just taking from the earth.
Yeah.
They're spilling chemicals,
Mm.
right? The CEOs of these companies used to go on trophy hunts in Africa, right? It's like I slave in a way for these assholes to fly in a plane to go and shoot a lion, to have the head mounted in the thing at home. That is what I slaving for.
Yeah.
And I love these things so much, man. 2 middle fingers to them, boy. You understand?
Yeah,
And,
bond that.
Yeah, bond that, dog.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel though that the engineering and that's why I mean as soon as Cutter said it, I was like yes, because I relate to what you went
Yeah.
through, because I mean for me I'm moving into writing now. There's nothing like the arts to fuel, there's an excitement
Yes.
that comes from it.
it is
and,
passion.
you know what I
It is
mean?
passion
Yeah,
to make
and
people feel it's
that's
nothing
right.
like the arts.
That's
man.
right. And
Yeah.
I mean I think Rajiv was in your class as well,
Mhm.
Samaru, and I think
Yeah.
he's doing a lot of like wedding photography.
Yeah, his
and thing.
photography is
You
amazing.
know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I like. But what I would say is that the engineering did help me with the writing. So the
Yeah.
writing kind of comes easier.
Yeah,
Would you say that the engineering kind of with that level of intensity
yeah.
helps with the photography? Like infinite patience.
Meticulous.
You know what I mean?
Thinking
Yeah.
and so on.
Meticulous. Yeah.
I think it's like for me, I passed through the annals of science, right?
Right.
And it's like you have 2 hemispheres of your brain. You have
Yeah,
left
yeah,
brain and
yeah,
right
yeah.
brain people and whatever. So I really, was into that science, and you're doing all these advanced, arbitrary mathematical concepts and that kind of thing. You have to wrap your mind around it.
Yeah.
It's the same as it's not much different from thinking about life in itself and the
Yeah.
concept of life and the
Yeah.
concept of even time.
Yeah.
Right, as you were talking about earlier. And it helps you understand things that should come naturally,
Yeah.
like such as the human condition,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
How
mhm.
people are the way that they are,
Mhm,
right? How
mhm,
animals are the way that they are.
mhm,
It gives you a kind of holistic way
mhm.
of viewing anything.
Yeah.
So whether you view yourself, like you get yourself out of yourself and you look at yourself,
Right.
or you're
right.
viewing your environment,
Yeah.
you're viewing your connection with nature,
Yeah.
you're viewing humanity's connection
Right.
with nature,
Right.
or
right,
lack
right.
thereof,
Yeah.
right?
But then let me then put a perspective on that, right?
Yeah.
Where we have Mario pull up our good friend Greta, who
First, well, let me just go straight to the jugular.
yeah.
Greta, I want to say Greta Van Thunberg. Greta Thunberg, sorry.
Yeah.
Greta Van Fleet. You know that.
I don't know who that is.
Yep. Oh, well, again, Faraaz, being
Yeah.
as cool as he is, he never heard Greta Van Fleet.
Right.
You don't need to
Right.
hear them.
Right.
Right.
It's a fleet of like ships or something.
No, it's just some kid singing like Led Zeppelin. So Greta Thunberg, globalist puppet or passionate protester?
I remember last year when she was still 15. Remember, I am involved in conservation work, so I on social media network with a bunch of youth organizations as well. And I remember when she alone sitting down outside the parliament, and it was a Swedish article, right? And it's like this girl, whatever, so and so. People saying she should be in school, right? Blah blah blah, disobeying her parents and that kind of thing. So she's been around doing this sort of thing for quite some time.
Right.
And the last year when she did the school strike, no one knew about it. Right. So it was in like not even many countries.
It wasn't trending. It was around in the press,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as big a trend
It
because she
didn't hit
didn't have a following
mainstream.
as yet.
It didn't hit mainstream,
Right.
right? And then
But
now
what's she
it's-
protesting for? What is she protesting?
she's protesting trying to get the world leaders to stop talking shit, right, and act.
In
Because we
relation to
know
what? Climate change?
Yes, the human-induced climate change.
No, that's what you say is what I wanted to
Yes.
get
It's
at.
a-
And
Right,
you were very
yeah.
specific with what you said.
Human-induced
What is
climate
climate
change?
change? You know, and
Because
you get to it.
there is
it's
nothing.
human-induced
There is
climate.
nothing more constant than change.
Right.
Right. We get that out.
Mhm.
The climate is in constant flux.
Right.
Yeah. But now, where you're watching, if you're a math student, you
Mhm.
understand the concept of differentiation. You
Correct.
dy dx,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So your
correct.
dy dx is your
So
rate of
gradient's
change,
changing. Yeah.
right? So right now, the dy dx of the
Right.
climate
Right.
is too high.
Right.
Not the change, eh?
Right.
The
right.
rate of the
The
change
rate of
is
the
too
change.
high,
Rate of the change.
right?
But
So
then-
it's
but then-
exponential now.
Right, but your dydx is over certain parameter. Let me go into maths, right?
Right.
So it's over certain parameters. They define climate change to be over a long epoch.
Right.
So your dydx, where do you consider that? Because a lot of the graphs what you see in
Yeah.
academic journals is between like, your 1700s and current.
Yeah.
But I know that, things, the earliest record of life went back to the first dynasty of the pharaohs, which was minus 5300 BC.
Right.
So so Trump is saying that it's weather, and it's part of a whole movement apparently called climate change denial.
Right.
Like that's a
They rather
thing.
be called skeptics.
Right. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a thing.
Right.
So I'm saying, is there legitimacy to what he's saying, and that what we're going through now is just weather?
I believe that this education is key, right? First of all, and the education that we are receiving is fundamentally flawed.
Right. Right.
If you think about history,
Right.
why aren't we being taught about life?
Right.
Right? We have history.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that at first,
Mm-hmm.
right? The history deals with how far back.
Right.
How far back is history?
Right.
Yeah.
But it only gets detailed when we have civilizations that we have records of. It gets detailed from there.
Right. So my point is that history
Mm-hmm.
is not just human history.
Right.
True.
You want
Right,
history
right,
to encompass the
Right. The
birth
environment, the
of
planet.
the planet.
Right.
You
right.
want history to encompass
That
the
is
universe.
So it's 1800. So 1800s.
Yeah.
Right?
So this, even from 1800s to now, is still a relatively short time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Which
that was
makes the situation
in that
even
short
more
time.
dire.
Right. Right.
Because changes in the climate, they happen. It's a very long wavelength
yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms
yeah,
of the
yeah,
variation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A single generation should not be able to see climate change like how
Right,
we are a generation
right.
that is seeing climate change.
Yeah.
Like how you and I both know that the forest itself was much louder,
Yeah. Yeah.
10 or
yeah,
15
yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
right?
And I mean, I could
Good.
break
But
it down to that
people-
point, in that home. I mean, I could tell you, I grew up without fan.
Yeah.
No,
Now you
I
need a
can't
fan,
live
dog.
without fan. And
Yeah.
up in St. Joseph, I can't live
Yeah.
without
It's
AC.
Right.
hotter. I
You
mean,
understand what I'm
we
saying?
know it's hotter.
So
We know it's hotter.
so from a physical feeling in Trinidad, I
Yeah.
am saying it's hotter.
Yeah.
But I also
Not
want
only
to
physical from I think from 1963 to 2005, mean temperature in Trinidad
right.
went up by 0.8 degrees Celsius.
Correct.
And 0.8
Correct.
degrees a lot.
Correct. But
Yeah.
you see,
so
I'm
it
saying
ain't just what you're feeling.
Yeah,
it is actually
that's
the
right. That's right.
feeling.
And you see,
Right.
what I'm saying is that I mean, the heights room is about coming from facts to truth, right?
Yeah.
Truth not easy to get to. You understand what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're looking at the different facts, and one of the facts is that looking at all the different sides.
Right.
And I am saying from an epoch standpoint,
yeah.
which is you're going beyond 1,000 years, the question is there really climate change? You understand? Or is this a localized sort of situation
Yeah.
that we are blowing out of proportion? And I'm saying that to say
And
that is what Greta's entire stance is based
Yeah.
on.
right, so
That is not, we don't want change in 50 years. We want it now because
No,
we're going
yeah.
and die in 10
and
years.
right, and people
Well,
are saying that
that's
how
a-
she
that's-
frames it as alarmist.
Yes.
But does she not need to be alarmist? If she was not alarmist, would she be making all these headlines? Would people be talking about climate change as we are now?
And now what people are saying
True.
is that now, be that as it may, the truth. And now I look at her as a protester.
Yeah.
I don't care that she's a child.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, you know, because she's a child, it's a deflecting tactic because you can't talk a child. But even if it was an adult, I would still say, well, she's a protester and a passionate protester that
Yeah.
I do not know the reality of the science because I'm not a scientist. I read reports which are conflicting,
Yeah.
right? But as you say, with the stance which she has to be somewhat of an alarmist in order to get
Correct.
forward. Because she is a protester. She is not a scientist. She is not a policy maker. She does not work in any of these
Yeah.
No,
authorities.
No.
No.
just-
I mean, it
but
was
what
extreme
happens?
for her to come over on our boat. Huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then people get into this. They get into talking about, and rightfully so, because everything must be questioned, right? They are saying, who is funding her? Are her parents pushing her in this direction? Is she brainwashed? She has Asperger's. She talks about it.
Yeah.
People say, does she know what she's doing? I think a lot of those questions we cannot answer. No one can answer that really and truly, right? But then I think there's a lot of rhetoric that has been around since the time of Al Gore's documentary.
Correct.
And it has to
It's
do,
been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
right?
We've been
No,
talking
I
about
mean,
it since the 60s.
But since the internet
a long time
has
ago.
been
Yeah.
such a
Yeah. Echo chamber.
echo
Yeah.
chamber.
Yeah.
My point being that is there the possibility, which people talk about as if it's a reality, right? Is there the possibility that Greta is unintentionally being used by forces which want to push a certain agenda, and an agenda which people see as a move towards taking away certain freedoms of people and having political ramifications beyond what we may see in terms of just the environment and so on. Now, it's a heavy thing, but
Yeah.
you know that is where people are coming from with that.
I believe that many people who are who are seeing and internalizing this issue about Greta have not been familiar with Greta
Right.
before
Right.
she achieved this level
Yeah.
of popularity,
Yeah.
right? And achieving popularity was never her purpose,
Right.
right? It was, hey, world leaders, listen, we want your attention. All she wanted, and people say, oh, she just wants attention. Of course she wants attention. She's trying to draw attention to her fucking issue, right? And it is true.
Yeah.
It is real, right? And it is people say, well, oh, do you believe in climate change?
Yeah.
Right? It's not a matter of believing in climate change. You see, if you read about it, is one thing. If you experience it,
Right.
it is another.
Right.
Right? And once you experience it and you see it for yourself, you can't
Yeah.
unsee that. So now organizations have joined with Greta. Where
Yeah.
they
She have
say,
a
well,
world tour right now.
I am
you
going
know?
to help.
Yeah.
Because these organizations said, I'm going to help you get your message out to different places. Right? And then people see these organizations funding them and be like, oh, politics.
Yeah.
But they refuse to know what she was about from before that. She was
Right.
never on politics.
Yeah.
She was never in that folly.
Right.
She was about listen. World leaders, listen to the scientists. She never even started talking about this is what I have to say.
Right.
This is what I have to say.
And this
Right?
is definitely
She's just saying from the get-go, she
Yeah.
was saying, leaders in my country,
Yeah.
listen, these are scientists.
Right.
They study this for their entire lives. Listen to them.
But
Right.
then let me now bring it to
and this is definitely a
few-
topic we have to touch
Yeah,
on
yeah,
in
yeah,
future
yeah.
episodes
Yeah.
as well.
And,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
mean, let me just touch on Trinidad because I remember about 8 years ago, that happened when we had Chogam and all this kind of thing. And one of the Commonwealth leaders asked our leader, what are you doing for climate change?
Yeah.
And he said, well, listen, we contribute so little to that overall environmental pressure of climate change. We shouldn't be burdened with the financial responsibility of supporting climate reduction strategies. So he got a lot of flack for
But that's
that,
false, though.
right? Well, let's carry
In
it all the way
in a
through.
way.
Let's carry it all the way through, right? Because in the same, that's what the world nations are pushing back at Greta with. Because if the French Prime Minister Macron, that's what he put, or President, that's what he pushed on. That's what Putin pushed on, and that's what Trump pushed on. So she is now in a position where she is, the ultimate activist, the ultimate militant, where you could look at her and see that expression of, absolute commitment. I am honestly concerned. I'm honestly concerned, guys, that she has to be clear. And I'm saying that because I watch many different documentaries and I'm getting slightly different outputs on what she wants to achieve. And let me tell you why. You see, it's hot now. It's about a year, right? Let me put it in perspective. A lot of the climate change discussion started when, because money is always, you had to look for the money, but you had to look for it, right? Obama, just before he left, rejected TransCanada's application to build the Keystone XL pipeline, right? As soon as Trump came in, he then authorized it. That then became a war on the
Native Americans.
That's right. On the edge of climate change. So climate change then became this war of TransCanada. The project itself is over $8 billion US.
Yeah.
So it ain't small. Coming from that now, the US Supreme Court in March shut down the Keystone pipeline. They came with an order, shut it down. March 15th is when Greta and her whole group did a worldwide climate strike. So it was, climate protest. So it was in 63 countries across the
that's
world.
a climate strike,
School strike, March 15th.
Yeah, which is not the first school strike.
Right. So just before that, the judge ruled no Keystone. Then she had this. March 29th, Trump came and issued an executive order approving the Keystone pipeline. So he's coming down the government channel, so federal, state, whatnot. So you are approved to go ahead.
Yeah.
Is this just a war over Keystone? And is it that? So then the question will then be, who is TransCanada? Apparently, TransCanada is one of many firms. Another one that's close to TransCanada, a lot of people are saying they saw the opportunity.
But you see.
How did she come on the ship? Who paid for the ship?
Exactly. No,
No, it was a recent yacht.
Yeah.
That
she has been sponsored. No, the thing about it is
the people who
will
own
get
the
sponsored.
recent
Watch
yacht,
me. Greta.
they were already going to make a transatlantic voyage.
Mm-hmm.
It was already on their schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
And they just offered
Yeah.
for her and her father to go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
she
what
would
I'm saying.
those
And you
favors.
look at the dates now, and you look at this, and all of the levels of coincidence and everything like that. But people fail to realize that she has been doing this from before,
Right.
when she was not funded, when
Right.
no one knew about her,
Right.
right?
Right.
When everyone is talking about the situation is dire and whatever, right? Think about this. There's a big movement now to save a certain area in Ecuador of rainforest called the Choco rainforest, the Choco biodiversity region, right? And it's home to a myriad of unique plant and animal species, right? Big thing, Rainforest Trust is doing it, whatever. You know why they're doing it? Because right now there's a certain percentage of that rainforest that's left out of the original habitat. You know how much is left? The percentage of rainforest in the Choco region that's left out of the original habitat is 2%. 2%.
Right.
The situation is extremely dire. It has been dire from before Greta was on the scene, right? And our
She's now an
movement
expression of
needed
it. Yeah.
this level
Mm-hmm.
of exposure right? And all of the arguments about politics and where this imaginary
So
asset
are
called
you
money
saying-
is going,
Are you
right?
saying that are you
It's
saying
irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that we are hurtling right now at light speed into complete oblivion, right? And light speed in terms, and it draws me back to the conversation about history. What is history? Is history 2,000 years? Is history 5,000 years? Is history a billion years? Right? The history should be 5 billion years, right? So people understand that 100 years is this. Your whole lifetime is not even a snap of the finger, right? Then we could understand our transience, right? And to understand that we are not, to think that something so transient as our life is the most important thing on a planet that has been in existence for billions of years, is that not the definition of absolute stupidity?
True.
How? And we're arguing about this thing. What if we listen to Greta? What if the world listens to Greta? What if if renewable energy is thing? What if trees are planted? What if life is allowed to live? What's gonna happen?
Right.
What's gonna
and
happen?
I
That's the
so
next big thing.
no, but I so love that he went into that direction, because what is very important is understanding the COP25 agreement and understanding that's what they signed in Paris, and that's what she's saying everybody must now comply to. That's really her ultimatum. So
Well,
that
this
she
is- The
because
information
remember
has been
that's
out there from before.
right, because remember that's what Trump pulled out of. You
Yeah,
understand what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
So she's saying no, listen. So it's becoming this sort of war with her and Trump.
Now,
You understand?
let me just go back to something for us for a second.
Greta ain't coming no new information.
Yeah, of
Correct.
course, of
That's
course.
that's information readily available from before.
So back to the Choco rainforest.
Yeah, in Ecuador.
Are you saying that because I might have missed something there? Are you saying that the movement which is championing Choco,
yes.
right? The fervor and the steam that Greta is building is lending to other environmental
Yes,
Causes.
because environmental issues are now becoming the forefront of
and I
discussions.
think people are missing this too. I think people are missing that carbon emissions and the climate change issue in relation to carbon emissions was one arm, if you want to put it like that, or it's just a branch of a tree which has to do with so many things which are breaking apart now, which are falling apart. You know what I mean? Obviously the planet is the main thing here, but carbon emissions is not the same as plastic in the ocean. But when one takes a stance on the environment in one way, it impacts on the other, and that is why she is getting so much support, because there are so many causes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
say,
yeah.
shouldn't
Which
she
are-
be
which are
careful
there.
though? Because I mean, she's still 16 years. I mean, she's a mammoth of a warrior. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Is she getting tied into many different causes?
The thing is, there are many people
Yeah.
like Greta. You know, Greta's just the only one who made the news.
Right.
And
But there are
and that is
many
our
people.
next thing. But that's our next thing. The people who are against the mindset that we
Yeah.
need to change now, and that's how the world going down on oblivion, and they say no, that's not true. We just obviously we have these.
Well, we just going through our
Protocols.
grana, boy.
No, well, they will say that. So okay, back to what I was originally gonna say. Good point you made there. She's the first one to get this kind of
Publicity,
and
yeah.
people,
Many people like
and
her.
people will say that the reason she's getting it
People are going to talk shit.
yes,
People are
yes.
going to talk shit no matter
because
what.
because she's a child.
Yes,
They say,
yeah.
but they're saying that because she's a child, that's why she's getting through. Because she's a white child,
Mm.
you can't really argue with her. She's like one of those things you can't really touch, because it's a child, the rights of the child, or kind of thing. Why is she at the UN speaking when she has nothing really to offer in terms of solutions? And but I think that people
She
are
has
so,
offered solutions. She just did listen to the science. Listen to the scientists.
but then people
That's
will say
all.
things like also they will say things like, is the world really prepared to not use fossil fuels and that kind of thing now?
No, it's a
And-
huge train, you know.
Mhm.
A big, heavy train, and it's going to take some time to stop. But we had to start stopping. First
Right.
of all, you had to take your foot off the gas. Then you had to
Right,
mash your
right,
brakes. So
right.
just take your foot off the blasted gas.
Yeah. But
eventually you will mash the brakes
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And eventually we will stop.
Yeah.
But the process of stopping needs to start
Yeah.
now.
But I mean, for us, let me bring it back and then segue into something else, because Greta herself, that's the Sweden arm, but there's a Brussels arm, there's a London arm. There are many different arms of, I think it's Future Friday for Future.
Fridays for Future. Yeah. Fridays for
Right.
Future.
When you listen to the others, because the others are children like her as well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not the same.
Uh-huh.
It's not the same intensity. It's not the same focus. In
No.
my mind, when you hear Greta, Greta is that.
Greta
I mean,
different.
we'll get blows with it, but I mean, she's the Martin Luther King to me. She has that extra gravitas where she
Yeah.
believes, and you heard it in her speech.
Well, that is
right?
the reason why she started to get the press. Because
Right.
if she was just passive about
Right,
it, she'd
right.
have not gotten the press.
Right.
If she
right.
did not stand out,
But then let me ask this. So, COP25 says all these countries, this is what you need to do, right? If you say this is all the things that you need to do, there's a price to all of them, right? Is COP25 meeting developing nations halfway and being like, okay, everybody sign on to it, great. We have this fund you all could draw down on to support these strategies. Because from what I saw, Trinidad had to draw from their coffers. Now remember, we just spoke about prioritizing development.
yeah.
That is our solution. But I'm saying for something as big as COP25, if you're really serious about it, I mean, you're talking IMF and World Bank.
Well,
Them men have
we are
endless
serious
coffers, huh?
we say white bulb is the answer. Apparently, that's how we're gonna save energy and things. That's the whole next thing we get.
yeah.
I just want to also, like, as I said, we're going to have to get other people on the podcast to talk about this issue of climate change. But I really think that there's a unfortunate situation in terms of discourse today, especially on the internet, where we do all our discourse pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's become like a sport.
Yeah.
It's become a side thing.
Mm-hmm.
People claim to be center and critical thinkers and so on, and and everybody's free to their opinion, but I have realized that there's a lot of tribalism almost, if you want to call that.
Yes.
And it's all about people, and I notice a lot of people it's as they say, outworking each other, trying to be more informed, who is more informed, who knows more, and people are not trying to, okay, I think this, you think that. You know, the man said, change my mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, the type of fellow who's that, a right-wing fellow who's that in America.
Yeah.
I'm pro-gun, change my mind.
That's right.
Now, the thing about it is, people will approach things and say, well, let me talk about this, but I do not see an actual interest to understand the other side.
And to me, why that is so important, and I'm glad you say, we want to bring more people. You know what I mean? Carry the conversation further. Because to me, there are three sides of it, right? Two of which we talk about already, which is, Greta, where, what exactly is her cause, where we're going to get the money from, in terms of financing this sort of development. And the final thing, I mean, that you would have touched on is things like, well, what can we do? So we talk about things like renewable energy and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, you segue into the bulb, but let me come back. Let me come back to that, right? So renewable energy, and let me speak specifically about that. Renewable energy.
Modern name carpet.
Renewable energy.
Let's carry
We
mud
go
everywhere.
scrub it.
Yeah. Gotta go scrub it.
I'm kind of stiff neck right now.
Yeah.
If
You just put that in there.
If I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Thanks for drawing attention.
Renewable energy. If I got a solar panel now,
Yeah.
I can't put that on my house
Nah,
because it's illegal.
go loud, yeah.
It's illegal.
TNT
Section
go loud, yeah,
53 of the Regulated Industries Commission, RIC Act,
Yeah.
says it's illegal. There were conferences, training sessions, everything, moving towards creating what they call IPPs, or independent power producers, and feed-in tariffs, which is that if you have a solar panel on your house, and you create 5 megawatts of energy, and you only use 2 megawatts, you could feed that into the grid and sell it back to TNT. But of course, TNT ain't making any money with that.
No.
So you come from a place like, Trinidad is 1/13 the electrical rate, compared to the highest in the Caribbean. I think it's Anguilla or something like that. Barbados is right up there. Because Barbados is big with the solar power and so on.
Yeah, many
So-
countries are.
So what people are saying is that it's the electrical energy pressures on people. Like, boy, I really can't handle this bill, this. That's what forces them into solar, the solar power thing. In Jamaica, the actual power company, so their Tech, actually offers solar power packages. You
Yeah,
understand?
yeah,
So
yeah.
therefore, they could make on that. So where we, if we conversant, let we go, right? So where do we want to go in terms of off the grid conversation? Because right now our laws don't allow it, and that's on a local scale.
Yeah, well, that has to change, obviously. The laws have to allow it, and not
Yeah.
only allow it,
Again.
but create incentives for it.
Yeah,
And again, it comes from a place of care and want
that's
Right.
right.
for that.
That's right.
And the government
Or
needs to
are we just
understand.
not militant enough?
Well,
Well, we
they
don't
need
even
to
know what we
understand that the
militant about.
masses are changing,
Mm-hmm.
and the opinions of the masses are changing. Whether or not it's true is another
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But as people involved in media,
Right.
we are responsible for creating an impression of
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah.
is,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And for me personally, with my involvement in other organizations
Mhm,
that are not limited to this country,
Mm.
I could bring that knowledge now to
Yes.
here to say,
Yes,
listen,
yes, yes.
this is what people are doing around the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is the direction that we are going into,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The
yeah.
largest, the fastest growing section of tourism
Mhm.
is sustainable tourism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The largest section of sustainable tourism or ecotourism is birding tourism, right? Billions of dollars are spent every year with for people traveling to see birds, right?
And we
So-
have our birds
And
here.
we have the highest number of birds in the entire
Say
Caribbean,
it louder.
Right?
We have the highest number of birds
in the
Yeah.
entire
in the
Caribbean,
entire Caribbean.
out of any country, right?
I heard this guy just found a new species of hummingbird.
Yeah,
Theodore
Theodore,
Ferguson.
Dr.
Yeah,
Theo,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
glittering throated emerald.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
the 19th species of hummingbird found in Trinidad.
Jeez.
On a record?
19, right? As well, previously,
up
like
there.
one, like, yeah, I mean, 2 species have been discovered recently here,
Mhm.
right? But it shows you that there's a great lack in knowledge as to like the migration patterns of these things.
Yeah.
And you have to ask the question also, because glittering throated emerald, which is a new hummingbird, was found. It's
Really?
usually found in
Yeah.
in South America, so Venezuela
Okay.
and whatever.
Okay.
You know all the issues
Oh, is
going
that
on.
any?
You know all the issues going on in the Amazon and deforestation and burning and all that kind of thing that was going on. Right. What if the appearance of this bird is tied to that?
Right. Right.
You understand?
Right.
What
right,
if this
right.
is an alarm?
Yeah.
You understand?
This,
It's not
this,
just
this a warning
woo, a
sign.
new bird,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
an alarm.
I,
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it
Understand?
has. I think it has to do something with something
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
yes, yes.
Because
yes, yes,
worldwide everything is
Because
linked.
things are
Correct.
happening.
Correct.
Everything is
correct.
linked
It's all one
worldwide.
space for
Right?
everybody. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
a couple of years ago, I was in Suriname,
yeah.
right?
Right.
And
right.
I was looking at a sloth. A sloth
Mhm,
just climbing
mhm,
a tree
mhm.
and just breezing, you know,
Two-toed or three-toed?
three-toed,
Three-toed.
right?
Wow.
And I photographed the sloth and everything. And when I looked at the picture, on the back of the sloth, there's a bunch of moths, right? And I did some research, and I already found that the sloth back look kind of green, right? The sloth doesn't move so slowly that algae grows in the fur,
What?
and these moths feed on the algae, right? So for the moths, some of them never leave that sloth, right? So to them, that sloth is their world,
Yeah.
right? And I thought that, wow, so too we are
Yeah.
just moths
Yeah.
on the sloth that is the planet.
Mhm,
It is a
mhm,
living,
mhm, mhm.
breathing organism,
Yeah.
and we just on it for a ride, dog.
That's right.
Oh, we are
Understand?
more like lice, eh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't avoid the louse, huh? The louse in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louse in the house.
Louse in the house,
Oh,
dog.
good.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
If it's like one thing I could advise anybody and everybody to do if you want to have a positive impact, apart
Yeah.
from the politics involved,
Mhm.
apart from the the greater ideas and the bigger plans and that sort of thing, setting up national parks and blah blah blah, plant a fucking tree.
Mhm.
That's all.
Mhm.
Plant a tree.
Yeah.
You want to make a difference, plant
Yeah,
a
yeah,
tree.
yeah,
The tree is
Recycle.
gonna provide life,
Mhm.
right? It's going to provide shade.
Yeah.
It's going to provide oxygen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to provide other trees,
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
shit.
And these small things stop using so much plastic.
Yeah.
All them kind of thing. I think a lot of people in Trinidad still have not caught on to the the trends that are happening worldwide. Where people
Yeah.
Oh, we had
they
to ban
do-
it.
yeah they don't
We had to
yeah,
reach
they
to
had
the
to
point
ban,
of
We
yeah,
have
that,
to
that-
ban
that's,
it, yeah.
that's Trinidad. You have to ban something
We had to
here.
ban it.
Once something allowed here, it's going to
Yeah.
take place. We have to
Yeah.
ban it.
Yeah.
And again, the authorities need to really see this.
Yeah.
As
you know.
consumers too, we have the power, right?
Yeah.
And as consumers and as the masses of the electorate,
Yeah.
we do hold the ultimate power.
Mhm.
If we as a whole stop
that
buying
coordinated,
something,
yeah.
right, then
Mhm.
you know eventually the people are going to say, well, you
Yeah.
know, this ain't selling again. We had
Yeah,
to change
yeah.
to something else.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
right. That's
Like
right. That's
I just pipe fine soaps.
right.
Fine
Mhm.
soaps. I don't know if you know that brand.
Mhm.
It's a local brand,
Mhm.
right? And on their packaging, they have responsibly sourced palm oil,
Mhm.
right? And palm oil is the number one cause of deforestation for tropical rainforests worldwide,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So orangutans are going extinct because
Mhm.
of the habitat being destroyed for palm oil plantations.
Mhm.
The same thing is happening. That is why the Choco
Mhm.
region in
Mhm.
Ecuador is
Mhm.
such
Mhm.
as so low because palm oil plantations,
That's right.
right?
That's right. That's
So you want to, as a consumer, personally, I would look for ethically sourced palm oil
right. Yeah.
or no palm oil at all because I don't want to contribute to that.
Mhm.
And if more people, more consumers, then would go to say you're avoiding palm
Yeah,
oil,
yeah, yeah.
then
Reach that
the
level of
manufacturers
consciousness, yeah.
would then realize that the palm oil products
Yeah.
Obsolete.
are not selling and they
Yeah.
become obsolete.
Yeah.
And that is how you elicit that kind of change, you know.
Yeah.
But it has to be grassroots.
Yeah,
It has to be grassroots, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Power-
attack it from the top.
Power is
But
in
is
the
it-
people's
the power is in the
minds,
people.
people's
Yeah,
choices.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the leaving
Yeah.
the leaving quote, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
power
in-
is in
in
the people's
people,
choices.
Yeah.
For the listeners and viewers, where can one see your work? Where can one read your writings? And how can people get in contact with you to go on a tour or whatever
Yeah.
that you? I mean, you do tours and so on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do. I do mostly bird watching tours
Right.
throughout Trinidad and Tobago,
Mhm.
as well as I recently started doing it to Kenya as well.
Right.
Right, so but obviously for Kenya they're big on the wildlife tourism.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not only birds, right?
Mhm.
But it's all the animals.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
The kingdom.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
The motherland.
Yeah.
Africa is the motherland, you know.
Yeah,
and once you touch our soil, you're
civilization.
never
That's
gonna
right.
be the same.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It's a humbling experience to see
Yeah.
people who, you know, you could tell a lot about people by the children and how the children behave. Right? We went there and we didn't see a single bad behaved child. Right? But anyway, for anybody who wants to get in contact with me, just Google my name now.
Spell it
Right.
for the
FARAAZABDOOL.
Faraaz Abdool.
Yeah.
Right, just hit
IG,
Faraaz Abdool on Instagram, Facebook, my
Right.
website, my blog,
Right,
whatever
okay.
articles that I've
Awesome.
done because I write on my blog, but I also write
Nice,
for different organizations. So
nice.
you know, you might find some incriminating information about me as well, but that's all part of the journey, you know.
Yeah, the cat killer.
Cat killer. You know, there was somebody got a picture of mine from
Yeah.
Facebook and made a whole
Meme thing, like
it was
smear
it a meme?
campaign.
It was a smear
Yeah,
campaign,
yeah.
with my
People
picture
have time
and what
for
I
that,
said
though.
and all of that kind of thing.
I mean,
yeah,
all
yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of
Yeah,
it.
but that's
For
part
us
of it,
is
that's part of it.
elevating.
That's
That's
part of
what
it.
we have.
You're
for
out
too.
here. You're pretty
Yeah.
much what you call a
Yeah,
public
that
figure at this
elevate-
point.
yeah.
For us, for the
Yeah.
things that you choose to.
Well, I have no
the
choice.
issues,
You
yeah,
know?
the issues
I
that
don't.
you
I
take.
don't think that everybody has the ability to see animals in the way and the light that I do,
Right.
right? Because I know that I'm different. I know that I'm weird, right? And I know that I see
Well,
things a little differently from many people. And as a photographer, I can't see something as ugly and make it beautiful. It has to be beautiful for me, for it to be beautiful to anybody else. No,
Right.
you know. So like the macaw picture we were looking at, that was actually an adult and a young one.
Right.
And the
right,
young
right,
one
right.
was still begging the adult one for food, and the adult one was coasting.
Right.
And he was like, "Nah, you're big, man. You're big. I ain't giving you more food, you know. Go and get your own food." And he's just there like, I want, give me it," and just like railing the parent face, and you know, it's just like that little moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, But I mean, that's what it's about. For us, is raising the consciousness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bringing that
Yeah.
heights. You know
It
what
was
I mean?
it was lovely having you
My-
as
yeah,
our
boy.
first guest
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah.
Number
Pleasure,
one.
pleasure to be
Number
here.
one.
I mean,
I mean, I've known
couldn't
Faraaz
stop
so
talking,
well
you
for
know?
so long. Faraaz
Yeah.
and me, a lot of people know me and Faraaz
Yeah.
are
Stink
good friends,
Rockman.
Yeah.
right? We stink rockmen, as you
Yeah.
would say. You know,
Yeah.
I've played it
Yeah.
in bands with Faraaz for so
Yeah.
long, and yet a lot of these things I've never gotten the chance to even discuss with him because you know how life is.
Yeah.
With
I
all
mean, we
these,
are the platform now.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know, we
yeah,
have
yeah.
this, you know,
There's rebels.
The
you
heights
know
room
what I
or
mean?
something.
Cutter was the reason I got into music and I started
Okay,
playing
okay,
music,
okay,
right?
right,
Because he
right,
came
right,
up to me one day. He's like, "Hey, we want to play for the graduation, and we
Form
think
five
that
grads.
you're
Yeah.
my
mad
form
enough."
5, his form
Yeah.
6.
The criteria was that I was mad enough, man. So I was like, "Word,
Yeah.
I'm in."
Yeah.
You know?
And then we had, and then that's when he steal Nap's bass.
Yeah.
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 Sorry about that.
Naps had a bass, we stole the bass, that became our bass.
I just walked out one day with it, boy, and I don't know. I never carried it back, and
I mean,
Well, I see.
it
it was a
rust-
shit bass.
It was
Yeah.
rusting
So I
and it
probably
was sad.
I did
It
them
was
a
rusting,
favor,
it
you
was
know.
sad. It was a baby bass, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
went a
Well,
long way.
I mean, it's rebels. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
about
yeah.
staying rebellious. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And what that means.
No, I always had a
Spiritually, yeah.
problem with authority
Yeah.
because I always had a problem people telling other people how to think.
Yeah.
You know, I think that thoughts should grow organically.
Yeah.
Everything should be
all
organic.
lies part of the consciousness, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's what we're
yeah.
doing here in the heights room.
Yeah, the heights room, you know, room for heights.
Yeah.
We're really happy to have your heights with
Yeah,
us
yeah,
Yeah,
today
man, we
for us.
appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Number
Thanks for
one,
having
you
me.
know,
It was
yeah,
nice.
yeah,
It was a nice vibes, you know.
Good
Bless up,
vibes.
man. Bless
Yeah,
up.
well, that's it for the first episode
it
there,
for the
figure.
first
We want to
episode.
thank everybody
We
who's
clocked
listening
what,
and who,
over 3 hours,
watching
like
right
nothing,
now.
past like nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, well, we
Who
got
the
it
fuck
time.
are you?
yeah, right. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we forget to say. So this the Caribbean yogi here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just healing up everybody, increasing the consciousness. Privileged to be in the same space of these three, you know what I mean, spiritual rebels, you know what I mean? Kata, Faraaz, and big up man like I Mario in the background giving me that support.
Mario.
You know? Yeah. And next time you will tell me how you get that name Kata.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I
sure,
mean?
for sure.
I-
It ain't as interesting as people make it out to be. But there are many stories there. I
Yeah.
might tell all these stories at
Yeah.
some point. So, from here,
Big
the
up,
Heights
man.
Room, Kata,
Big up.
Caribbean Yogi, Shankara, and my boy, Faraaz.
Bless up.